Good
but never break
morning,
them.
good afternoon, good evening, everybody, however you happen to be watching. I want to thank you to the Gaming Circle podcast. The podcast where this week we are doubly excited because we have some crazy topics to discuss and an amazing guest to talk about it with. But as of course, I am your guest, Mr. TKO Asante, K Asante. You know me. I appreciate you being here. I see some folks already in the chat. And of course, I am joined, we'll quickly introduce him, by my evil twin, the man who's not as follically capable as I am, but
Do
still,
you see what he's talking
we
about?
don't hold that against
I'm
him.
very sensitive about the beard that I can't
we
grow.
don't hold that against him. The man who's handing out Sonic-sized shoes to anyone who wants to listen on these old Twitter streets, Mr. Everborn Saga. How are you doing today, sir?
Listen, I hand out the shoes. If they fit, you wear them. And I think we got a lot of free shoes to hand out today. So I am ready to go. We got a very special guest in the house who I appreciate joining us. And we will try not to take this. See, everybody knows me as a Sonic, specifically Sega guy. But I'm also a hardcore fantasy guy. And we have another hardcore fantasy guy. So I hope that this does not devolve into a discussion about what is better, the Wheel of Time or Brandon Sanderson's
Yeah, but how
Stormlight
could you
Archive.
even make that discussion with not even reading one book of Wheel of Time, though?
But hold on a minute. Hold on.
slander is on
I've
display,
read the
baby.
first book, and it wasn't as good as the first book of Stormlight Archive. And because the Stormlight Archive book was so good, I read the others.
Now, before you
Can't
guys
say so
continue
much
the
for
slander,
Wheel of Time.
let me introduce this man who requires no introduction. If you are,
But we're gonna
part of-
introduce him anyway.
We're gonna do it anyway. In this situation, I'm telling you, this is bucket list stuff for me. I will tell you, and I'll tell him live on air. He did not know this. His channel and Boom's channel were the first ones I ever subscribed to many years ago. Been a lingerer
really?
on his channel for many years. I appreciate his takes. He's always even keeled, even when I want to see Rand get a little bit, bothered. Nah, he's just cool, and I really appreciate that. The we're not worthy a meme is applicable here. Kids, if you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your parents. Mr. Man with the Million himself, Rand Al Thor. Thank you, Rand Al Thor 19, for joining us this morning. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you guys for finally having me.
Finally.
I thought this would happen sooner because, me and Everborn going back and forth about books and stuff that he hasn't read that I've read multiple times. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I see what's
Rand
going
is on
on here.
display, and I'm here for it, baby. Let's go.
So yeah, it's really good to finally be able to get down and talk to both of you. I think we've been in podcasts together, but not that often. But so I can't wait to talk to you guys about whatever the sort of topics you have produced, because for me, I don't know if you guys are like this. Yeah, I prepare my topic list for Xbox 2, right? But not really in depth, and you can probably hear my dog barking as somebody outside.
Oh,
but
you're good.
when I come on guest as a guest, I don't look at anything because I want to be surprised. I don't want to prepare my answers. So I know you put a list up, and I kind of glanced at it, but I didn't really kind of look at it. So
Rand, K Asante always puts that list of topics. I never pay attention to it. I'm telling him this right now for the first time on air. But fun fact, the way this show started, the way we said we wanted to start, working together or whatever, is we would talk on the phone for hours about like industry stuff, and we're like, we should probably record this. That was it.
It's interesting. That's the same way Xbox 2 started. Me and Jez had met during E3 2016, and then we started talking on Skype about the industry and about Xbox. And he basically was like, man, these are such great conversations. Nobody is ever going to hear it. I'm like, yeah, it's a shame. And he's like, let's turn it into a podcast.
And then Rand's like, I've been recording us the whole time.
Yeah.
It's not weird at all. Don't worry.
So your show basically started the same way our show did.
See,
Yeah.
And if those are the paths we're traveling, that gives me hope to keep continuing, because y'all show is like one of my favorite. It's required viewing for me every week. So this tells me that the way we're going is exactly the way I should be going.
Yes.
And for the record there, Everborn, we usually don't even cut like 50% of the topics that that I put into those things. It's just something to remind me of, hey, we forgot to talk about this, and then I'll pop it up. It's more from my notes than yours because we never watch it. We end up devolving into crazy madness anyway, which is, I suspect, what people come here for anyway.
Yeah, and just one more thing about Rand, your show, the Xbox 2. It is just, when you are in the Twitter streets like we are, or specifically I am, you hear about a lot. So, when you listen to some of the podcasts that you used to listen to, it's like everything they're going to talk about before you hear it. But Xbox 2 is really maybe the only or one of the only podcasts where I actually learn new things every week that I didn't already know from being in the Twitter street. So I appreciate that show, and that's why it's always on the weekly listen.
It is
schedule.
the last
That means a lot.
podcast I listen to on Fridays before my last meeting of the day. Without it, I'm sad. So
how do you guys feel when we sometimes do it on Saturdays, though?
Oh no, I actually like Saturdays as well. I mean, it cuts my yard time. Well, there's a lot of good shows to watch on Saturday, so yours joins the rotation. But it being on Friday is perfect because it's the only thing I have to look forward to.
Well, it is since you guys do it when you have time. That was my inspiration for On the Reel. I'm like, we're supposed to do it Thursday, but they'll understand if we do it Friday or next month. Because look what one of the biggest shows does. They do it when they have time.
Mr. Rand Al Thor 19, the man with the million, has earned his stripes in these Twitter streets, my friend.
I hear you.
Consistency helps, my friend.
Yes. Twitter. I actually don't use Twitter that much. Yes. Not as much as Everborn, and I'm certainly not in those Twitter spaces like he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to keep my ear to the streets. I got to know what the people are talking about.
I look at my phone sometimes. I'm like, what is Everborn? What sort of... Why is he in this
what
Twitter
sort of madness is he getting himself into?
On?
That's right. That's right.
You know what it is? I refuse to make a sock account. That's what everyone tells me. It's like, if you're going to go in there, you got to make it a secret account that no one knows is yours. I'm like, nope. I'm here, showing up. This is...
So before we get into the gaming stuff...
I try to add class to this.
Let me shout out to the folks that are here. Mr. Joanna Dark, welcome, sir. Our previous guest from last week.
Welcome.
I was excited to hear that you were here. I see you in there, man. Tate Talks, thank you so much for checking us out. Big Mad Mo. I see so many Jigga J. I see Beast Mode in here. These guys always join the conversation. In the case of Beast Mode, he's always providing information, making us even better than we are ourselves. So we appreciate him. He is our dictionary. He's our Rolodex. He's the guy who corrects us as we need to be corrected. So thank you guys all for being here. As we do on this show, I think we will start as we have in the past. We'll start, and I think I know what you've been playing, but let's start with you, Mr. Rand Al Thor.
What have I been playing?
Have you been playing this week? Yes.
Dying Light 2 is what I've mostly been playing.
Yes, sir. I'm excited to hear about that. Please.
But realistically, what I've been doing is reading Words of Radiance, Stormlight Archive Part 2. But no, I've been playing Dying Light 2. It's kind of I haven't really been playing much in January because there just wasn't really much that interested me. So yeah, Dying Light 2. I'm a few hours in. I'm actually quite enjoying it so far, up to where I'm at. And I think the parkour stuff is incredible, and especially when you combine the parkour stuff with combat. And I'm also at the point, I don't know about you guys, but I'm the type of person who plays an open world game, I gotta do everything right before I move on to go do something else. Or
I'm not that kind of guy. I can't do it.
You're not that type of guy.
Straight to the stories. I don't care about side quests and your leg doesn't work, so I gotta go run and fetch something for you. Nope. Mind your business. I'll mind mine. I'm here for the story.
See, that might be because of my OCD. When I play games, I would have to get all the achievements. So I would have to do all the side, because normally there'd be an achievement for it. But this game has a survivor sense, detective vision from Batman. So you press something and it shows all the things you can interact with. And I'm that type of person who does that and is searching around everywhere and making sure I get all the crafting equipment and stuff. But no, it's better than I thought it would be. It definitely is an improved version of Dying Light 1 for sure. So fans of Dying Light 1 will probably
It's good
really
that you
enjoy
mentioned that real quick. I actually initially I was hesitant to jump in, and to be fair, I now live in a post Game Pass world, so that is a metric I judge most things by. Will this hit Game Pass? I don't know. So I should be far more excited for this game than I did not buy it. I might still do so, but I have a feeling I might be in Game Pass. And the reason why I should be more excited than most is David Bell, which most people don't know, the dude invented parkour. He's in this game. Rosario Dawson is in this game. Like, there are a lot of really cool, interesting, and like when I say the dude invented parkour, you should watch his B movies. They're terribly acted, but the action is insane. Like, he's doing all his stunts. He's as good as like Jackie Chan in his prime, like that good. So the fact that he's in this movie, in this game, lending his expertise to the parkour, I should be all about it. But it just seems kind of generic to me, generic open world. Like they dumbed down, from what I can tell anyway. They dumbed down the night stuff a bit. The first one was like actually tense in the night, but now it seems like it's a little less. I don't know. Like, am I mistaken in that it is ripe for Game Pass?
I mean, maybe eventually. Who knows how these things play? I mean, did Dying Light 1 ever come to Game Pass? I don't think it ever did.
That's true. That is true.
But then again, Dying Light 1, I think, was published by... Because I think they have a different publisher now.
Okay.
For this game. I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
Yeah, they did change hands many times. That led to the delay of the game itself. I do recall hearing that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the Dying Light developers for supporting it for so long. Years after,
yeah,
they're still getting DLC, they're still getting updates. So it's great. I will definitely play it at some point, but I kind of feel like I'm ready for open world, but more Forbidden West open world, rather than I might be open world out by the time that comes out. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you?
Yeah, no, I hear you, because that's one of the problems I think Jess was talking about, was he's just he has that open world fatigue. That Ubisoft, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff you need to check off on a list and whatever, and yeah, maybe I haven't really spent that much time with the open world. Probably will get boring at some point, like all games do eventually, because it's like at some point you're just like, I just want to finish the story. But Everborn never has that problem because he doesn't do any side quests. So
I have no empathy.
Just
that's it. I don't want to hear about
just
people's problems.
To me, it depends on the story. Some of them help with the side quests and whatnot. And when we get to what I'm playing, I'll mention a bit more of that. It depends on if the story lends well to side quests, or if it's just a real side quest that really has no bearing on the main story. Then I may do a little less of that.
This game has those Sonic kind of side quests that are just stupid. At least the ones I've done. Like, this guy's like, oh, I need you to get me a battery because I want to be a craft master. So you find him the battery, and then he kills the goat, and then because of it, you can now electrify your weapon. Right, some of the dialogue,
though, right? That's a plus. Those side quests lead to actual benefits moving forward. Yeah. That's interesting.
I will do those if I know there's something in it for me. This is not altruistic Everborn, right?
Okay.
Rand altruistic. I remember somebody called you that yesterday.
Hilarious. So yes,
it's not how I roll.
Besides the Dying Light 2, anything else you've been getting into there, Rand?
No, that's pretty much it. Just chilling, making videos on the YouTube channel, doing the podcast. Are you
planning to officially review that, or it was just opinions?
I mean, I'll talk about it at length next podcast. I usually typically only review Xbox games because they send them to me early for review. So I'll talk about Dying Light 2 on the podcast for sure. I know Jess stopped playing it, but I'm really enjoying the game. So we'll see. Next week, I may be in the part with Jazz where I'm just like, yeah, you know what? The open world started to bore me, and I wanted to play Sifu instead or something, So
yeah, that's coming too. I'm excited about that for sure. Yes. Okay.
You know what I'd love to see? Because I like Sifu's one that I'm very excited for. I'd love to see I know we just got Streets of Rage, and it was amazing. Still haven't beaten it yet because I refuse to do it on co-op. But I would love to see
that's another story.
A reimagined Streets of Rage or Double Dragon Sifu style.
There is kind of that, but it's in VR. Like Double
come on.
Dragon, it's flat screen, and then you literally put the headset on, and it turns into 3D parallax, and you're beating people up in 3D. Just a thing. Go ahead.
No, don't want to hear it. Is it my turn yet?
Go ahead. Yeah, no. Yes. Please tell us what you're playing.
Yeah, no. I am playing Horizon Zero Dawn in an attempt to complete it before Forbidden West comes out. And I got it's so on the one hand, really great game when you consider it came out in 2017. But I don't know that I'm in love with the combat yet.
How many hours are you into it?
I don't know. Can I see it from the PS app?
Probably.
So, okay, let me tell you where I am in the story, and you can tell me how far I am into it. So, I did the proving. I won, and as soon as I won, they decided my reward was to kill the black girl, the only one that was there. And then the general, who was also a woman of color, she disappears. And I met with her son because all the black people are related, and he is guarding the fence. So the son's a security guard, the mother's gone, the sister's dead, and I am now a seeker. So at what point in the story is that? And it's also weird to me that we're doing all of these like ethnic drums and everybody has dreads.
That is an interesting critique to make, sir. And I think we should have a conversation about that at another time. Like when Forbidden West comes out, I suspect that they'll go further in that direction. And you're the first person who I've heard have that take, and I genuinely want to actually, expound on that a bit because it is interesting. the pointers that you've brought forth, it kind of rubbed me a little bit, but now that you mention it and you've said this to me before, I started thinking about it and went, it is interesting that I didn't hear more people say that.
One of those things you can't unsee.
Yeah, now I can't unsee.
But anyway, no, but as a game, I think it's great. I think, and visually, really good, especially when you think in 2017, that game came out like a few months after, what's the smaller budget Recore, which is like a kind of a similar
really
thing,
gives you
post-apocalyptic world with robot animals.
It shows you the differences there, the choices that were made, the budgets and all of that. You're just like, wow, look at the difference. Yeah.
Right, difference in priorities.
Yeah, one game had a $200 million budget, the other had $5 million budget.
There you go.
It's amazing what you can do.
But here's the thing, I would love to see Recore come back with a big budget. It never will happen. But I actually like that game.
It had good ideas. You're absolutely right with that. Yeah.
Like as a game, forget about the visuals, just the way that it controlled, how the dungeon crawling worked, and how they kind of made it like a sort of 3D Metroidvania style game. I actually really like it, and I wish we could get another iteration, and it would be even better. Because imagine the same game with those mechanics, but with the production value that you had in.
You know what I think was the problem with Recore?
What's that?
I think they threw a bunch of stuff in there because they felt it needed to have it. Like if Recore was a linear, handcrafted game where it was about like those God, I forget what they're called. Like where you do like the really intricate jumping and dashing stuff. I think
picking the robots at the right time to switch you. I remember that. Yeah.
I think the open world really deterred from that game. It felt like the open world was like kind of just like, well, every game's got to have an open world, and it was just kind of pointless. If the game was more just here's a linear focused game, just kind of really highlighting the jumping, the dashing, when you should use the other robots, I think the game would have been better received. But the open world was sort of barren. The loading times were ridiculous. The open world didn't really add anything to that game at all. But I got a question for you both, since we're talking about Recore and we're talking about old Xbox games. If you were in charge, if you're Phil Dominus Aurelius Maximus Spencer as
indeed
the ILP set,
I think he
King
needs
David,
another title now.
All those guys, Lord Cognito.
Indeed. Shout out
if
to
you
them.
could bring one game back from Xbox One Gen, so Recore gets a sequel, right? Rise 2 getting a sequel. Killer Instinct getting a sequel, Quantum Break 2. If there was one that you could bring back, but that would also mean all the other ones could never come back.
Ooh,
which one would you pick?
That part's tough. I'll let you go there, Everborn. Go ahead first.
Am I limited to the Xbox One generation? Because there's a game that I want to say that only got one game.
You can pick any game from any of the gens, but if you pick that one, then all the others can never come back.
Right. It would be too cliche to say Rise, because that's what I want to say. But I am going to go with Lost Planet, the game that they did in concert with Capcom in the 360 gen. Love that game. I think if you brought it back. I don't think so. I know it launched exclusively on Xbox, but I don't know if it ever came to PlayStation later on.
Lost Planet eventually came to the
PS3. But yeah. Okay. No, that's a good idea, because I did remember that it created this almost Destiny-like community that just lasted far beyond that game's capabilities. It was big for a long time. I remember Lost Planet was really huge. You know, I'm more of a console, a campaign player, so I fell off after that. But my buddies were still jamming on that game for many years after.
To your point though, Rand, I do, and again, I know there's a million other things at play, but I think if each of those, because everybody talks about the Xbox One generation as though it was like all bad. It was all bad, but. No, but I mean, if we were in a world where the first half of the gen, we got Rise and Killer Instinct and Quantum Break and Recore, if in the 2018 to 2020 period, those games had all gotten sequels that capitalized on the positives and smoothed out the rough edges, I think the generation may have been perceived a little bit differently. I think the whole Xbox has no games meme wouldn't have been as prevalent if all those games had gotten.
Yeah, but now Xbox is a monopoly, so.
Oh yeah, I know. They're gonna take over everything.
Question.
You know? Oh, okay. This one. Yeah, and you answered the question, but there's one thing I just that it's super hilarious to me about that, which is there is this idea, and I know we're gonna talk about this later, that this is all a long con, that Microsoft has basically gotten themselves to be rated as one of the best places to work in the world, pays the highest salaries, only for the long con, so that later on, somewhere 5 to 10 years down the line, they can say, "Gotcha, bitch! We're cutting salaries.
PG-13, good sir.
We're treating people bad. I apologize." It's hilarious.
Yes, no.
Go ahead.
And we'll get into that. We will really get into that because of some various Twitter explosions. We'll get into that. But I have two responses to Rand's question. One is what I really want, and the second one, well, I kind of really want that as well. And both will be very unpopular opinions. That's why I want to give them. First unpopular opinion, and everybody can boo this man right now. Brute force. I want brute force. I want brute force done properly. Because brute force is basically Gears of War before Gears of War. It was like, co-op shooter. Each person has their own specialty that they do. It had an idea. It was just horribly implemented. I want brute force. That's the first one. Second one, Breakdown. If anybody's ever played that, has anybody played Breakdown?
Yeah, I played a little bit of Breakdown.
Another game that had very interesting ideas, very mature themes for its day. Had a spark. The minute you start, you vomit all over the place. I don't know if y'all remember that opening cutscene, but it kind of set a tone for that game. And eventually it fell off. I think it was a Capcom game, but it was also exclusive to Xbox. No, it was a Namco game. Yeah, it felt exclusive to the Xbox. It was very interesting. That's when I thought they were being their most creative. Some things hit, some things not so much. But I really thought that they did interesting things at that time. And now that they have so many studios on hand, and a lot of IPs, maybe somebody somewhere goes, "Hey, I'd like to take another stab at that one," and they get the opportunity to do that. So
interesting. Both of you threw Rise 2 in the bushes. Both of you sent Killer Instinct to die.
See, to me, Rise.
Poor Boom's never gonna get his banjo.
Oh, poor Boom is not going to get his banjo. The burden bear is coming back. You know that. There's no doubt. It's been said so many times in so many quarters of our gaming community that if I don't see that in the next 3 to 5 years, I'll be very surprised. I'll be very surprised. But, we're talking about games that will probably never come back that we want to. And I suspect both of my choices will never come back. Ever.
Probably. It's interesting. I got my wish.
Oh, yeah?
It was Alan Wake 2.
Ah, yes. But of course, to get your wish, they had to disavow all knowledge and all relationships with Microsoft to do it.
I don't care. I got my Alan Wake 2.
That's right.
I don't care who made it.
So does it concern you that the style of game is different than it used to be?
No.
No?
I'm a big fan of Remedy. Okay. So I'm confident that they will put out a quality
even
product.
After the impending Crossfire X campaign? I'm not sure about that one.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, like I don't know. I feel differently. It's kind of like they were contracted for that game versus like
their heart wasn't
their
in it,
game,
basically?
and they're like.
Well, okay. About Remedy, and I want to ask both of you guys this: has any project that Remedy has done in concert with Microsoft, has it ever worked out where like both parties were happy financially and otherwise?
Probably not.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Never once.
Yeah. And they are like an amazing studio. Like they started obviously the Max Payne franchise. Like they have some games that are critically acclaimed, but they've never struck it like, yo, they're here now. It surprises the heck out of me that they never have at least one that is both critically and financially successful.
I just also want to point out right now, their market cap is about $500 million. Wow. Could be had for $750 million, and people would think that was a steal.
But I honestly don't think they would be fans of being acquired by Microsoft specifically.
I wouldn't acquire them if I was Microsoft.
I have a feeling there's some bad blood there for some
they
reason.
Would be the problem child.
Yeah, I have a feeling.
But they keep working together.
No, they don't. I mean, they're not working together anymore.
Yeah, the whole Smilegate thing is different.
What's Crossfire?
Yeah, but Smile, that's different. Like that Smile or Smiley or whatever the hell. Like they're the ones who.
Smiley
they're the ones who hired Remedy to do the campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't Microsoft.
Yeah. So, we shall see. I hope this is a good one for them. By all accounts, I hear that the Crossfire X campaign, which is where I'm solely focused, I hear that the multiplayer is a bit generic. We have a lot of multiplayers. It is what it is. I was hoping the campaign might be good, but people are not giving me the warm and fuzzies about it. So we shall see. I'm just like cautiously optimistic. We'll see.
Half the campaign's in Game Pass and the other half isn't. So
the other half isn't. Yeah. So it's half.
Wait, what?
Half. Yeah. And then the multiplayer is all free.
Can we just acknowledge that Crossfire X has one of the worst marketing campaigns like in the last I don't know how long?
I think that's a bit of hubris. Though.
Nobody knows.
It's a bit of hubris because where they come from, where Crossfire originates, they are the tip of the spear when it comes to their market. So
where? Who knows that?
Like, and they have way more players than like a lot of other games that are considered like monster successes. Crossfire is like Counter-Strike in Korea. It is huge.
What I'm saying is no one knows that here.
So the marketing is hubris. They go, we are who we are, baby. Y'all gonna come to us. They don't know that, hey, we don't know you like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It seems that
way,
And of course, they didn't market it well. And then those who got to try it went, and then moved away. So, we shall see. I have a feeling this will be a bit of a fudge. But
I guess.
Yes. So is that all you've been playing? You've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn only this week?
Horizon Zero Dawn, that is all
Okay.
Yes, that's all I'm playing.
So I will get to Horizon as well because I've been playing Horizon. But first off, let me mention that I've been playing this game that you're seeing on your screen here, which is Record of Lotus War. It is, as you can see, a Castlevania-esque kind of, kind of game. Has very much that aesthetic. I can take some and leave some. This one is actually unusually good. Like the story obviously is always obtuse as they are, but I like the moment-to-moment mechanics. They keep throwing interesting powers at you. You start with, if you see on your screen there, you have the blue energy and red energy. Blue energy gives you the ability to fly and hover a bit. Red energy infuses your weaponry with fire. And then it starts off that way, and then all of a sudden there are gates that require you to switch energies. The enemies come at you, they throw a fireball. If you happen to have the red energy engaged, the fireball doesn't hurt because you are on fire. It's very interesting stuff they've done there, you know. Very OG Castlevania type aesthetic.
I love what I'm seeing.
Mr. Boomstick recommended that I give it a shot, and it is pretty damn good. Like I expected to just give it a try, just a few minutes, and I ended up playing a couple hours of it. I really enjoy it, and of course it is on Game Pass, so anybody can just download it real quick and give it a shot. Being that it is so lightweight as far as resources is concerned, you can play it in the cloud, and it works perfectly as well. I played this on my phone, played this on the tablet. Feels just as good as playing it on the console. So I've been enjoying it. This has been pretty fun. I'm also...
Hey,
go ahead.
Hey. No, I was going to say, Rand, I'm waiting for your dog to hear my dogs barking and then start barking at my dogs. And then it'll be a virtual barking contest.
So I've also been playing God of War on PC. I'm Mr. Double Dipper, guilty as charged. I beat the whole game on PS4 way back when it first came out. Had to try it again on the PC when it came out, like just recently. I actually, oddly enough, so a quick tangent. Sometimes I'm playing, I like to play, and I'm in my office where I also work. Sometimes, like in between a meeting that I'm just supposed to be listening in on, I'll just turn it on, and then I feel guilty. Why are you playing when you should be working? And then I go, oh, I know how to solve that problem. Hit the record button. Now I'm recording footage for my show. So I ended up playing about an hour of that, and I ended up putting it on the YouTube channel, ultra wide, 3080, blah blah blah, just to see how that looks, to show people the differences in what the PC version looks like. I will say on PS4 that game was insane, and to say that it looks even better on PC is saying something, because that game was already started out 100%. So they really put some like love into this game. It looks amazing on the console.
No, I'm looking at this, and Horizon might have to go in the bushes.
You're playing this?
This is
a game.
My jam. See, this people don't know. I'm a 16-bit era junkie. So when you give me something like this, it is more appealing to me than any of the new fangled graphics and all this other stuff. This is fun. This is gaming to me. Very much. This is how I look at. This is how I look at it. Gives me the feel.
Throwing like new powers at you, new ways of using it. You think you're overpowered, and then all of a sudden the difficulty spikes ridiculously, and you're just like, oh, I guess I'm not overpowered. It's very good. It's very fun game. Now, I also have been playing Horizon Zero Dawn. Again, guilty as charged, double dipper, playing it on PC. Finished it on PS4, but had to try it again on PC. Also very fun. I'm getting like 300 frames per second or something on the PC. It's really cool, and the motion, and that's why I asked you, everyone, where you are in the story, because once you get to a certain level, the moment to moment, gathering the resources, knowing what you specifically need to outfit the right weapon, it's very cool. That's what got me so excited for Forbidden West. And with that in mind, I think we should transition really quickly into the news stories, because I have something related to Horizon that I kind of want to discuss with us. So let's transition there. So this came out because, shout out to Gaming Since NES, a good friend of the community, also on Twitter. This is his tweet that he posted out there, where he basically was asking the community, what he should do. He pre-ordered this game at $218 US, where I am, right? And he was like, should I be buying this for $200+ when it's $60 right now? We were talking about it, and it really got me to thinking. And I was thinking about this the whole time myself. Like, I initially also pre-ordered this thing, but I have also been the one on this air, on Boom's air, wherever I can get the opportunity to, right? I'm like, vote with your wallet, be the change you want to see. This is the final game that PlayStation will give you with a free upgrade. If you don't use it, then you're telling them that you don't need it. You know, I keep saying that. And here I am buying the $218 woolly mammoth situation. You know what I'm saying? So, long story short, I ended up canceling my pre-order of this and buying the PS4 version for $50. And now, yes, because the game is still just as good. And I'm, as I've said, I've double dipped. I love Horizon. Like, I've said this before and got a boo. When the first game came out and the choice had to be made between Horizon or Breath of the Wild, I was one of those rare freaks that chose Horizon because I was into the graphics at that time. I ended up going to Breath of the Wild later, but I love that game. You know, the beginnings are a little rough, but when you get into it, it is amazing, and I am super excited for the next game. But the more we don't vote with our wallets, you know, the more they go, well, they didn't care about that. So we can keep firmly moving into the future with this a-hole tax that we keep charging people. What do you think? I will start with you, Rand. What are your thoughts on deluxe editions, and especially now the digital deluxe editions, which give you kind of in-game stuff but charge you considerably more? Are you into that? You know, what's your thoughts?
No, I am not. I only care about the game. I don't care about the statues or any of the extra stuff. The only time I'm interested, or I'll pay more, and some people might boo me for this, is if they're like, okay, for $80 you can play the game 4 days early. Then I have bought those editions to play it early. But normally, 9 times out of 10, I buy the lowest, cheapest version because I don't care about all the extras. Most of the time, the extras are just not very good. So, yeah, I would never in a million years buy a $210 version of a video game.
Even if it comes with the cool statues and whatnot?
No, you know, I'm a huge Halo fan. I never bought that the cat helmet, you know, that they sold with Halo 3 or whatever, or any of the specials.
I did. That's the only one I bought, and I do not regret it, and I still have it.
You mean the Halo 3?
God damn it.
Right?
Halo 3, yes, the helmet. Where you take it off and then the game's inside?
Yeah. No.
You definitely can't put it on your head. But
just give me the $50, $60, now $70 game, and that's all I need. I don't care about the extra frivolous stuff.
There you go. How about you, everyone?
So I want to take this I don't care about the statue at all. That's like another toy. But you know,
but I did combine.
Is what it is. You can probably get better elsewhere. But
as far as you know, the game that's free upgrade. What do you think of that part?
That's the one I want to talk about.
Because I know you have thoughts.
And first of all, I see Xbox University has entered the chat.
Welcome,
so shout out to that guy.
Welcome, yes.
So here's the thing. Aside from this, you can decide whether you want the toy that comes in the box, which is probably only worth $20, which they will sell in Toys R Us or your local Target later on. But go ahead, pay an extra $140 for it. Do you, right? But we talked a lot about whether you should buy the $60 version to take advantage of their $10.
You have
take advantage of the upgrade
that they're going, because PG-13 movies allow for 2 swears. Go ahead.
Well, what did I say?
You weren't swearing, but I say you have permission to swear. So go ahead.
Oh no! I'll save it because we didn't get to that. Adam ruins everything. True. So I'll save my swear word for that. Okay, so so with this, a lot of people are saying, "Hey, take advantage of it. Buy the $60 version and take the free upgrade." I am going to buy the $70 version.
Why?
Not because I want to support the devs, not because I think it's the right thing to do. I think Sony begrudgingly offered that free upgrade because everyone rightfully complained, and I think they're going to screw everyone over who takes advantage of that $10 upgrade. There's going to be something that comes out later on, and it'll be some entitlement issue where if you upgraded from the $60 version, you're not going to get this or that later on. So to save myself that trouble, I'm just going to spend the $70 because I don't trust them.
So what you're saying here is you have been trained by their disingenuous behavior to expect this to come and bite you in the butt later. So instead, you're just going to go and give them your money now to avoid the inevitable disappointment.
All right. And you will be the one crying later when you miss out on some update. And I will just be sitting back eating my popcorn, telling you shouldn't have been cheap.
This has nothing to do with you shouldn't have been cheap. Nothing to do with it.
Okay.
You coined.
Why are you doing
coined
this?
The a-hole.
You're taking advantage.
You coined the a-hole tax moniker, and you were right. You were absolutely right.
Yeah.
And
it is.
If you don't vote with your wallet in this case,
I don't know if you know this.
You will never ever get this stuff again.
I don't know. Listen. The reason they called me the slanderer supreme is because I'm an a-hole. Right? It's because I'm an a-hole.
The
so
slanderer
I'm gonna
supreme, huh?
He added supreme.
Yeah,
He's getting.
Listen, if Phil Spencer's getting names, I can get a name too.
Yes. Continue.
So the point is, in order to save myself whatever headache you guys are gonna go through, because listen, there used to be a time where I would look for the cheapest deal, and I'd say, I know it costs this amount of store, but I know a guy who knows a guy who could get it at a discount, so I'm gonna talk to that guy because he knows somebody who works in the store. I don't have FU money. And I keep telling people this, but I don't have time for this money. So I'm gonna buy the PS5 version because I never owned a PS4. Not never owned it, but I'm saying I don't own one now. All I have is a PS5. And I'm going to call it a day. And when they do some funny stuff later on, and you guys are going to go on your diatribe about how it's messed up, I'm just going to say I knew what they were going to do because they didn't want to give you that in the first place. So sorry if I don't trust them. Sorry if I'm too cynical. I'm just going to pay the $70 and get it over with.
Sony are career criminals. This is what he says.
Yes, they are.
You know what? Just because they are going to do what you inevitably think they're going to do doesn't mean I want to pitfall it. They have come out and said, look, no holds barred, no hidden this and that. We are going to offer this.
Stop you right
hold
there.
on. Let me finish.
Stop you right there. They also said they believed in generations.
I know. We get all of that. But I want to see where this goes. I want to and all
right. You do that experiment. I'll
record,
live vicariously through you.
For the record, I love this game so much, and the game that came day one is all I ever needed. And that's the first one. So I don't foresee a world where now all of a sudden, what are they going to do? Offer you free DLC that only goes to the people who paid $70? That's ridiculous.
So what exactly is Everborn scared about? What exactly is he? Yes. You're sounding like the dude who put that tweet out about Microsoft and a monopoly, thinking that something horrible could happen 10 years from now.
That's right.
No. It's not that. I just think that if you buy the PS4 version, and then you do the upgrade, I think later on there's going to be an update that you don't get.
Kind of like how
that will be specific.
Kind of like how when they gave you the PS Plus version of the remake of Final Fantasy, then you couldn't get the integrate version. They wouldn't let you.
Exactly.
That's what he's thinking. Yeah, I see where you're going with it.
And I don't put it past him.
See, this is what I mean. And when I said this, he's like, ain't nobody trained nobody. They have trained you with their behavior to expect the worst from them. So, maybe you can save a couple bucks? No, I won't save those couple bucks. They're going to screw me later.
I don't know.
You've been well trained, sir.
What
do you think? Yeah, Rand.
Well, you look at it right now, and essentially Sony has a bunch of cross-gen games that have PS4 and PS5 versions that have received the updates. So they would be breaking with their own tradition of suddenly being like, nah, guys, you bought Horizon PS4 for $60. You're not getting whatever update is for the PS5. That would be, they wouldn't do that. And I would confidently say they would not do that at all.
That's where you and I differ, Rand. I definitely.
But I don't see it though.
And I'm just pre-gaming this.
Well, I know the internet saves all, so we will revisit this. I'm sure of it. It's gonna come out very soon, and this will either be in your face there, Everborn, or you might be right. We shall see. See, and there you go. The chat agrees. They say you drank too much of the PS Kool-Aid, and the PS Kool-Aid is usually in a good way, but you're drinking it and you got the sour taste in your mouth, and now you assume that anything they say will be sour.
No, listen. What I think is going to happen is whatever they do in the future, they're going to charge you guys a $10 fee, the ones that you tried to save right now.
They're going to keep charging.
They're going to get it from you.
Until they get it from you somehow.
They're going to get that $10.
So yes, not only did...
Do you remember that movie Better Off Dead in the 80s where it was like the paper boy that was outside and he kept following him because he wanted his $2?
It sounds familiar.
And he was like, $2.
It sounds familiar.
I want my $2.
You think that's what
the whole thing? They want their $10.
Okay.
They're gonna send a little kid outside of your house on a bicycle
to come get their $2,
haunting you.
You know, if Sony wanted to
$10.
avoid all this, they should never have put out that blog post saying that these games would have gotten a free upgrade. And then they hoped that people forgot that they put out that article. And they were trying to pull a fast one by saying, oh, well, it was delayed, when the article literally was like, these games will get free upgrades. Like, no. Look, I love you, Everborn. But this is not happening.
This is a bridge too far, right? A bridge too far.
Okay.
Salute to Gaming Forte. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. He says, hit
Mr.
that like
Forte.
button, people. Please.
By the way,
that
I
like
am
button.
not. This is not an endorsement of $70 games. I am just saying
because
don't
your
trust
argument
them
is,
later
your argument
on.
is literally the same as, well, I pay my $70 because that's how they're able to make these AAA games. If I don't care about how they make their money. They won't make their
I do not care at all. I don't care one iota about how Microsoft or Sony makes their money. All I am saying is, I'm going to pay the $70 because I don't want to go through whatever steps to do an upgrade and whatever you have to do.
You go to their web store.
Okay.
You buy the PS4 version. That's it.
I know.
No steps.
Cool.
It actually documents it here. And Push Square.
Why does it need to be documented?
Push Square. Well, because the minute they announced it, like you said, I agree with you. They did it begrudgingly. So if you happen to be on your PS5, you never get that option to buy the PS4 version because it's on your PS5. But if you do it in the store on the web, it gives you both options. You buy the PS4 version, it joins your library. On their release, the PS5 version becomes available at no cost. Presumably. I will hedge my bets that way.
I love that people in the chat remember
got
the $2
Cusack.
reference. I
Yes,
appreciate
indeed.
Appreciate
Well,
everybody.
the mag is old enough to remember, stuff from like the 50s, right?
Oh boy. Oh, I can hear him screaming from Canada.
You ever notice like with the mag, I'll be watching him on podcasts, and you ever catch him sleeping on podcasts? Because I'll be watching and I'll take a screenshot. And I'll have it like a perfect screenshot where he's like zoned out, and I'll DM him and I'll be like, "Caught you again. You're not really too excited to be here, are you?" And so.
Oh man, see when Slow-Mo Backslap is not here, like giving Everborn the right to smoke. Now you're here trying to provoke the mag. I'm not gonna hear the end of this until PTG. I suspect.
I love that Forte has showed up in slow-mo.
I know.
He's the one. He's the more sensible of the two.
There you go. Oh. So you're starting that now too. Okay. Good for you. Good luck. Well, we'll move along and we'll touch a few light topics before we get to the meat and potatoes of the matter. So we hear Grand Theft Auto 6 is in development. Nothing new.
See you in 10 years.
I know. Yeah. The first tweet that I saw about this post underneath it was, "Yo, 2030 is gonna be lit." I was like, man, these people have started early, But I mean, are we surprised? People were so focused on this game just never stopped selling, which is the GTA 5, that is.
Red said I got time. I love it.
Right?
Okay.
What do you think of GTA 6 being announced this way? Like, it's just kind of, oh, by the way, get off our butt about it. GTA 6 is in the works. Well, okay. The next GTA is currently in the works. VGC is presuming it's GTA 6. They just said the next title is currently in the works.
Jez was trying to troll me, being like, that's just Grand Theft Auto Online 2 or whatever, and I'm like, but it's interesting.
Can't you see a Destiny type shared world where it's campaign and multiplayer kind of?
I could see it, considering how much money GTA Online makes. But his whole thing was, what if there is no single player for GTA 6? It's just GTA Online 2, and I'm like,
online.
Yeah, it's just, I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that. They couldn't do that. I mean, they could, but they wouldn't. If anything, they would scale back the single player and not have it as much as like 5 was or whatever. But what's interesting is that we've seen a bunch of these announcements recently. Like, when they would announce a new Grand Theft Auto game or any game from Rockstar, it's a big thing. They just put out a video at any point in time and boom, right?
Big,
like
flashy,
millions,
yes.
But you've seen recently, so they basically announced this in a tweet. Blizzard announced their a new unannounced game in a brand new world, not connect to anything else in a job posting, right? Respawn announces 3 Star Wars games in a blog post. Crisis 4 was announced in just the Twitter thing.
Yeah, they're kind of just dropping things.
They're just
well. Here's the thing. Here's what's going on. They are all there's too many jobs around with not enough talent to fill those jobs. So they have to announce these projects in order to attract talent. And could have fooled me, but it seems like that's what a healthy industry would do.
Well,
it's too bad.
You know what? I appreciate your comment, but you're not allowed to comment here because you've never played GTA 5. Moving quickly along.
And I never will.
Wait,
yeah, that's right.
He hasn't
that's
read
right.
Wheel of Time, and he hasn't played GTA 5. Like, what
He's
do you?
never played GTA
Where are your
5.
I hear credentials are a big thing on these Twitter Spaces and Twitter streets. Where are your credentials, man? Where are your
right
gaming
there,
credentials and your fantasy
Everborn
credentials?
Saga everywhere.
This whole show is just me trying to remind everyone whenever possible that this man has never played GTA 5. Come on, man.
And never will. I refuse.
It is the Catcher in the Rye
GTA
of
4
gaming.
was my last GTA. Nico was
Bellic.
the last.
Next thing you're gonna,
yeah.
You haven't played like BioShock or something.
Basically, I think that is an apt comparison, like required reading, if you will. Come on now. Come on now.
He calls himself a fantasy fan and hasn't read Wheel of Time. Unbelievable.
I mean, fantasy is more than Wheel of Time.
Sure. Are you going to tell me you've never read Lord of the Rings?
I have read Lord of the Rings.
I was about to kick you out of this Skype call.
There you go. There you go. And Mr. Lucius Augustus, welcome. Thank you for being here. I disagree vehemently. GTA 4 story is not as good as 5. I disagree, but I appreciate your opinion.
You don't like the immigrant story?
I think it was done too tongue in cheek. The accent insulted my intelligence. My cousin Nico, get out of here with all of that.
Hey, let's go look at some big American titties.
You know, it just angered me when I heard them. But okay, I'll let it slide.
That's how I felt about San Andreas, but whatever.
I'll give you that too. That also insulted me a bit. That whole that thing. Although Sam Jackson was in it, so I had to give it what it deserves. Whenever Sam is in something.
I almost gave my second curse when you said Sam Jackson.
Bad mother. Okay, let's move on. So another little side story that.
Still never forgive Star Wars for what they did to Mace Windu.
I need him back, by the way, but that's a different conversation. Yes. So, Rocksteady. Suicide Squad being delayed to 2023. Anyone surprised?
No.
Nobody's surprised. No. And guess what? That may not be the only one that is delayed, right? Because I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get Harry Potter this year either.
Well, they've actually come out and said they expect Harry Potter this year, though. Okay. So that and Gotham Knights. Once Gotham Knights basically, it's kind of been hinted that it's going to be a fall release. You knew there'd be no way Suicide Squad was releasing anywhere close to Gotham Knights. Mm-hmm. So
and that's the thing. To your point, Rand. Like, we have seen like full long form gameplay clips of Gotham Knights. And there's just no reason that WB Games would want to release the two of those in the same year, because why, right? So I even if like we did see gameplay, I would just think like strategically they'd want to place them 1 year after their other for fiscal results and things like that. But I just think everything's slipping, man. Everything. No. And so maybe we hear this about God of War. Who knows?
People are still on that God of War train, baby.
I am.
I would be surprised though, because it's not gonna. Are we really serious in thinking that they're going to rebuild anything? It's just a continuation of the assets they already have, new stories in that world.
Yeah, I feel like that's an oversimplification of it, though, because when you are building a whole
is oversimplification. Most of it is.
Yeah, because there's so much more that needs to be done in the way of motion capture, in the way of art direction, and all the new places that they have to build that weren't there before. Yes, the same play mechanics might be there, and yes, they're gonna reuse some animations. That's fine, people. but it is a lot to craft a thing like that, especially when you think of how long the first one took. So you add the COVID delay to it, and that's just, it is what it is, and we'll get these things when they're ready. I'll tell you what though, 2023.
Yeah, they keep saying that.
2023 is going to be an amazing 2021.
the year of dreams, hopefully.
Yeah. Man, Warner Brothers got some. I think they got some management problems because you look at Rocksteady. Mm-hmm. Their last game was in 2015.
Yeah, kind of nuts.
That'd be 8 years in between releases. Warner Brothers Montreal, their last game was Batman Arkham Origins in 2013.
At their height, that's Insomniac's 2 games.
Yeah, that's 9 years, right? And even Monolith, who just announced Wonder Woman, which probably isn't coming until 2024, right? That game, their last game was Shadow of War, which was 2017. So even you're looking at 7 years on that one. Yeah. The Skywalker saga, from Traveler's Tale, who used to be normally every single year.
Yeah, they had a really good cadence.
I think they're on 5 years for this game.
Well, so to that end, how much of that has to do with the 2 acquisitions that they've had to go through and the potential sale deal that fell apart a year or 2 back?
I don't think
right?
any of the deals that fell apart had anything to do with it. Maybe the merger might or whatever, but I kind of look at
but there's 2 mergers though, right? There's the AT&T merger, and now
how long ago was the
spinning
AT&T
them out
merger?
into this Discovery deal. What was that? 2018 or 2019? Probably closed in 2018. Sure.
That one might have had some. I just think it's just poor management, because I think like they let these studios be like, oh, you build something and then they cancel the game. Like there were rumors that Warner Brothers Montreal was working on a Suicide Squad game that ended up getting canceled, and then they were working on a Damian Wayne game that got canceled, and then they were working on this Gotham Knights, and then Suicide Squad pitched a Superman game and a Justice League game. They both got denied, and then they ended up picking up the scraps of the Suicide Squad game that was canceled. From like it's weird. It seems like the only one who's actually putting out steady content is NetherRealm.
So to that end, I know a lot of people want the WB Games acquisition. Is WB Games actually a good target for what Microsoft needs? If they really don't have the release cadence required to be,
my buddy Jez Gordon would say no, and it's simply because you would have to license these things. You wouldn't own the IP.
Well, but here's the question though.
Well, hold on. Can I do it? Can I say it?
Yes,
can I say it? So I've been beating this drum for maybe 6 months now, right? And I'll tell you a thing offline, Rand, but. Not that I know anything about what I'm about to say,
something
but
else
something
related. I get you.
Tangentially related. Why not just buy the whole thing?
They did so with,
and I don't mean you buy the whole thing for WB Games. Deal. I mean you buy it because all of your main competitors, which are Amazon, they have Prime Video, Apple. They have Apple TV Plus. They're all in that space.
You then
right?
own
They're all
DC,
in the streaming video space.
The whole IP,
right?
All of them.
Right, but again, it's more about you have a video streaming service to add to the consumer arm of your business, and it is another well-functioning streaming service that you don't have to build from scratch. You buy that, you also inherit the movie studios and all the IPs, even the ones outside of video games that you can monetize through the video game arm, and then all your video game projects, now you can have
cross-pollination
to these other things. And I'm not saying they are buying all of WB. I'm saying they could have.
So you're essentially saying
they spent that money on Activision Blizzard. The same money.
Well, I'm coming to that point.
So everyone, you're essentially saying that you think Microsoft should buy Discovery then?
Well, yes, that's what they'd have to do now. But just fun fact, right? In this Discovery deal, which AT&T has just valued, they have valued Warner Brothers or Warner Media at $45 billion, right? And this new entity, which is Warner Media and Discovery, is going to be called NewCo. The Warner Brothers shareholders will own 70% of NewCo, and the Discovery shareholders will own 30% of NewCo.
And by the way, quick aside, NewCo is just a placeholder name. I used to work for a company who also split off, and they all started as NewCo before they came up with their actual name. It's just something they say.
NewCo is just for new company. But the point is, I don't know what if we say that 45 billion is 70% of the value, then we can do the math to derive the other. So you can call it around $60 billion. You add a markup to that. It would not only give them WB Games, which again, that's a pittance on why you would really be buying it. You'd be buying it so that you have that to bolster your entertainment arm, which is
HBO Max,
which
right,
HBO Max and the studios and all those things. And that's how, if you're getting WB, that's the way I think you get it.
Well, God's sake.
Okay.
But okay.
Me and Jez have talked about this. His response has always been he doesn't think Microsoft is interested in that. He doesn't think Microsoft is interested in...
Slow-mo's in the chat saying the same thing. They don't care about that.
Yeah, like they aren't interested in owning DC Comics. They're not interested in owning HBO Max. They're not interested in owning those sort of things. And I tend to agree with them. I think the way you could have gotten Warner Brothers was basically buying them from Discovery or AT&T before all this stuff went down, and then trying to sign a 20-year exclusive licensing arrangement for
basically
the IPs.
Yeah, but I do want to be clear. I'm not saying they buy them just for the video game.
No, but I'm just saying
piece. That would be like...
No, I get what you're saying, but I kind of agree with Slow-Mo, and I kind of agree with Jez. I don't think Microsoft is interested in basically running a movie studio or a video or a subscription TV studio. I really don't think so, because I don't think a lot of people at Xbox were interested in really running Mixer and really kind of taking control of influencers and stuff like that. So you could be right, but I don't know. Someone just tells me that I don't think Microsoft is just that interested in owning HBO Max and own DC Comics and all those different things and stuff.
To be fair, people had asked Nadella, not specifically about Warner Brothers, but they asked him about being in the video streaming business, and he's literally said they're not interested in that. I'm saying the only way, to me, it makes sense to buy WB Games is you buy that, and now you're playing in that world that your competitors are in. That I don't think I don't think we can definitively say that maybe in the future they wouldn't be interested in that business. That's the way to do it. But if you're not going to get the whole thing and you don't want to get into the whole video streaming and Hollywood productions and cross pollination of IPs, then I don't think WB Games makes sense, as a whole. I don't even think, because whatever you're going to have to pay for that licensing, you're going to pay that, and then at some point that deal is going to expire, and then it becomes less valuable.
Sure.
Do they want to deal with that?
But if you sign a 20-year deal, that's 20 years from now. I mean, who knows what the next 5 years are going to be, let alone the next 20. And when you're talking about the reason why WB is so interesting, at least to me, and why I always was like, they would complete Xbox to a certain degree, because when we talk about Game Pass, selling Game Pass to people who aren't really into video games is tough, because you look at Halo and yeah, it reached 20 million people, but Halo really kind of appeals to a certain gamer, a certain hardcore enthusiast, right? What Sony's doing with Insomniac and Marvel's smart, because the MCU and superheroes are incredibly mainstream, especially to casual audiences. So when you look at Warner Brothers, a Batman game, a Suicide Squad game, a Wonder Woman game, I think has more appeal than a lot of the games that Microsoft will be putting out in the future, simply because of their broader appeal, which is why I think Microsoft was interested in WB to begin with. Because if you could make a new Batman game and put it on Game Pass, that's a huge event, because everybody knows Batman
into gamers. Yeah, that's
right?
Because
Because like, look at Starfield. Starfield, we all think is going to be a great game, but Starfield is more than likely going to appeal to a very hardcore audience,
existing fan base already.
Yeah, yes. But Batman appeals to everybody. Batman appeals to hardcore gamers. Batman
just
appeals
like Spider-Man
to casual
gamers into gamers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's why that's why they're valuable, because of all the demographics they can hit. The problem is they don't own the IPs. Yeah, you could solve it by buying all of Discovery and then you own everything. But do you really want to be in the HBO Max business or the movie business? I don't necessarily know. You definitely probably don't want to be in the comic book business, right? So
I don't know why they wouldn't want to be in the HBO Max business, though. Right?
Well, but remember, like, HBO Max isn't doing that hot. Like, they keep throwing things at it, and it's full of good content. But they are not Disney Plus. They are not Netflix. They have not hit that critical mass where it's self-sustaining. They're still trying, and I don't think Microsoft wants to be in that business of focusing on that market when they're busy trying to be successful on gaming, as well as all the other businesses.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I do see where you're coming from, though, because it would fill a hole that they need, right? They would no longer need IPs. They would no longer need a contract from anybody. They have IPs galore at that point, right? They have many developers. Although I agree,
they are making a Halo series, and if that does well, I guarantee you they'll make a Gears series and all those other things.
The Paramount Plus, which now we have to get subscribed to. Screw that stuff, right? But I do agree with Slow-Mo.
And Microsoft did open their own television
I do
studio.
agree with Slow-Mo, though, that the reason why this is would be wasteful is that their mindset for what they want Game Pass to be is churn, constant studio adding in. And we've already established right now that their studios, as great as their games are, they don't come out in any remotely of a dependable, recreatable time frame. 9 years between games, right? So in order to make them successful, you'd have to go in there and rejigger their system, which they don't want to do. They're already busy with this Activision Blizzard daunting task, right? So they would want a well-oiled machine that could literally be bought and continue the process of putting content into Game Pass immediately. And I don't see that being WB's MO, right? Rocksteady, when was the last time we saw a game? And we're already talking about them delaying this one. They're not people who produce quickly. So what's their benefit in Game Pass? You know what I'm saying? So I do see that.
Their benefit in Game Pass is for them to make the Matrix game.
But they have so many studios.
And
even
that's what this is all about.
Today,
for me.
The coalition.
I'm showing my hand.
The Matrix game, right?
I want Phil Spencer to buy Warner Brothers so he can make that Matrix game a reality.
And you think that only Phil Spencer and Xbox could make the Matrix games a thing?
Only he sees the vision.
Interesting. Okay. Well, all right. Let's move along. Well, speaking relatively in that Sony camp, we heard this news this week where Sony has plans, in the works right now, 10 live service games in development. Now, this is where, before I let you go off, Mr. Everborn Saga, this is where I give him the righteous roses that he deserves, because he has said for a long time, and I've agreed with him, that if you want to see what PlayStation's doing, don't hear what they say, look at what Microsoft did, because they are doing exactly the same thing. They may say something wrong, something completely opposite to their consumer base, because they know that they have a lot more of those warriors involved there, and they might not want to hear that. So they'll tell you to look left, but when Microsoft is going right, they're following them right. So this is exactly where they're going. What do you think, Everborn?
No. Let Rand go first. But the specific quote is, if you want to know what Sony's doing, just look at what Microsoft was doing 2 years ago.
Yes, Rand. Please.
That's it.
I mean,
and that's on a scale.
It's not a surprise at all. None of this is shocking to anybody that has any common sense. Look, live service games make a ton of money. Okay.
Facts.
And you look at a lot of their Sony's recent financial breakdown. They made the most money from microtransactions and DLC out of that entire pie.
And what game again?
Here he goes. Call
well,
of Duty.
But that's the thing. All those live service games contribute so much to Sony's bottom line. And yeah, I think Sony was freaked out. I think they were completely freaked out when Microsoft bought Activision because Call of Duty makes them a ton of money. But this was all these games were essentially in the plans for a long time. So look, Jim Ryan has said that he's frustrated with the console business, right? He's frustrated that games like God of War only sell 20 million and can't reach the hundreds of millions, right? And these games, every single year, these games cost more and more and more and more and more to make. But the console market isn't getting any bigger. It usually remains about 250 million people that buy it. So what do? You have to either raise the price, which they did to 70, right? An extra $10 a game. Yep. And you need to find other revenue streams, which they are with PC. But what else can you do is you can make and finally go into the field of live service. Now, you don't necessarily need every live service game to hit, right? But if you can get one of those 10 games to actually hit, then it essentially pays for all the others. And you can have a consistent revenue generator, right? Because when you look at like God of War, it sells so much in the first month or two, but then it kind of just falls off. And it'll sell more as like sale prices dip. But you get all that revenue at the beginning. But something like Fortnite is just generating billions of dollars every single year in, year out. Same thing with Apex Legends. It is a consistent revenue thing. And so, yeah, it's like, it's not a surprise that Sony's doing this because the writing's been on the wall. Everything that Sony's been doing is essentially what Microsoft has been doing since 2016. Putting games on PC, right? Mobile, streaming, subscription services, live service games. It seems like Sony is going... It's weird because Microsoft was very much about games as a service. You had your Gears with your multiplayers, you had Sea of Thieves, you had State of Decay, you had Halos, right? They typically focused on those experiences. But with Bethesda, it kind of was like, and some of the other acquisitions like Ninja Theory and stuff, it kind of was like, okay, in Compulsion Games, it was like Obsidian, you were getting Microsoft into like buying and making more single player content, right? Where Sony was already making the single player content, but they didn't have the multiplayer content. So they're kind of like a reverse flip of each other. So now Sony's making more multiplayer content, Microsoft's making more single player content. I mean, I don't know. The writing's been on the wall forever. This is all just about money. It's all about maximizing the money you can kind of squeeze from your users, right? Because as they said before, the market's not growing anymore. So what do you have to do? You basically got to get every single red cent from your, users. Now they're going to be competing with third parties because in the PS4 gen, they basically were like, listen, we're going to focus on single player. Well, you guys can do whatever you want in the multiplayer space. But just like with the streaming wars, when Netflix showed up and everybody was like, okay, you can license our content. And then all these people that owned Friends and owned like Frasier and all these incredibly old TV shows that people love to watch, they were sitting there like, well, wait a minute. Why is Netflix making all this money off of content that we made? And now all those companies went to go make their own streaming service. That's almost exactly what's going on here. Sony was like, we're going to make our own single player and we'll let the third parties thrive. And then Sony sees all the money coming in from the third parties with the rise of live service and was like, we want a cut of that. Yep, instead of only taking 30% from this shit, let's take 100% from this.
Yep, we want the whole deal. Indeed.
So I wonder how some of these third parties are going to feel when now on PlayStation, they're going to have competition from Sony on this end at this point, right?
I did hear folks complain when this whole Activision Blizzard deal thing struck. I heard folks complain that this might lead to like less attention for indies on Game Pass because now they have their own studios. Similarly, right? They have their own studios. They have their capabilities to do whatever they want. So they no longer have to lean on these indies or all these other third parties to then pad the content, right? So similarly, people are worried that they'll stick to their own rather than giving opportunities to the third parties. What were you saying, everyone?
No, so I think just to add on to a little bit what what Rand was saying, I think we saw this, right? Every time a platform holder wins a generation, they sort of can take advantage of their position in the marketplace, right? So in the 360 generation, we saw Microsoft taking advantage of its position in the marketplace, where they didn't have to buy new studios because they were such a major player, and they had this greater market share, or towards the end neck and neck market share, where they couldn't be ignored. So it wouldn't be financially wise to exclude their players out, right? And so they ended up in the Xbox One generation not having a strong foundation in a lot of areas, right? So what we've seen with Sony is they have been able to, again, they did invest in their first party, but they invested in doubling down on a single type of experience. I'm not calling all the games samey, but I'm saying they're a similar experience, right? So they've done that. They've gotten really strong there. They've used those the experiences that are just the best in the industry at creating to bring people in. But once people are in the door, they've relied on their market share to create deals with third-party partners to fill the holes that they didn't fill, the gaps in their portfolio. So they never needed to focus on bringing back SOCOM or building out Killzone or Resistance or creating a new multiplayer IP. Why? Because they had to deal with Call of Duty, because they were making all this money with Epic, and they could negotiate contracts with Epic because of their market share to do crossplay, and they get a cut of every sale and all that on top of the 30% that they have to get. So they've done that, and because they were resting on the laurels of their market share, now after January 18th, they found themselves in a position where they may not be able to rest on that, even if they preserve their market share lead, which which it is not the same right now. It was 2-1. Now it's 2/3.
Something like that. I think it was 17
to
million.
1, something like that, right?
Number that they
17 million to 12 million, right? So, but so again, right? They may not be able to rely on those things because Microsoft has taken them off the board. And what I want to point out that is interesting, and it sort of relates to the other thing, but I'm not going to take it there, is Sony did those things, right? And that's great. And they on top of the Destiny deal that they did for early content and the Call of Duty deal that they did for early content and what they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake and Street Fighter V, they did that, and Microsoft was unable to secure deals or secure similar deals because they had smaller market share. Microsoft was unable to counteroffer when Sony wanted something to be exclusive, because the Xbox market, and I'm not talking about morality here, I'm just talking about business, numbers, right? If Microsoft wants a timed exclusive, it will cost more because you're limiting your sales potential on a greater number of people, right? And when Sony wants an exclusive deal, they are, they can cover the losses that are projected on the Xbox side because, there's less people. And that's why it's vicious cycle. So the problem there is Microsoft could go and say, so they couldn't rely on third party, and they're getting locked out of content, which is diminishing them in the mind of consumers, which is leading to more disparity in market share. And it was harder for them to attract talent because all the best talent is either going to go to the big third-party publishers who are in bed with Sony because they have the market share, or they're going to go to Sony, the number one game in town. So how do you attract talent in order to build those games that will bring people back over, right? It was this thing where they could not, even if they wanted to, and they were trying, and you could say, well, you build what you have in house. They do that. That takes what, 5 years, and by the time that materializes, possibly, you've lost even more market share, even more money. Maybe the whole thing gets shut down. So they use their advantage, which is not market share. It is capital. They use that capital to buy studios to fill the gaps that they have, and that is how competition works, people.
And you know what?
So we will continue that conversation later, but that's what leads us to where Sony is. So Sony now finds itself in a position where they have rested on their laurels. They now need to make a purchase to help them to fill the gaps that they have. And they do that. It's printed as 3.6, but 1.2 of that is deferred. So they really only paid 2.4 for Bungie.
That's where I want to go with this conversation next. Continue. Go ahead.
And they did that to fill that hole. Because if they wake up tomorrow, maybe Phil is a nice guy. And Rand, I disagree with Jez. Phil is not a nice man. He kept saying that.
Was getting on my damn nerves.
Talks nice so he can get close enough to hit you with
Phil
the
is
shiv.
a nice dude. Phil's a very nice guy.
He's not a nice businessman.
He's also an assassin.
He's a shrewd businessman. That's
exactly.
You don't get to be CEO of Microsoft Gaming, just being a nice guy. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Right. So again, there is right now, what they have with COD for all of their players that are into that game and that genre, that could be gone if Phil wakes up in a bad mood.
Yes.
Right? They can't have that, so they had to make this purchase. And I know this deal was in the works for months before, but many deals were in the works. Talks are happening all the time. Deals are being built all the time. But the deal is not done until you come to agreeable terms. And I think that autonomy and that 3.6 billion number is what had to be done to get the deal done. And that was settled on after they saw.
Yes,
right? Because they said we can't afford to let this deal pass us by, because they could have woke up and Microsoft got Bungie also.
Yep.
So they said, what does it take to get the deal done? You want autonomy? Fine.
So what do you think of the? What
Just
do you think
help
of that
us build these service games.
Added to keep employees happy.
That's not what it's for.
What do you think?
That's part of what it is. But I was listening to Hoag's Law's video on this, and what he was saying is it's really like a deferred payment on the entire deal. So basically, like, Sony only has to come out of pocket with 2.4 billion now, and the other 1.2 billion is to keep them honest to deliver something, but also it gives Sony a little bit more time for to get that liquidity, right, to go and pay them for that. So that is a concession on Sony's side that Bungie had to give into. We're not going to give you that cash up front. We're going to slow down. We're only going to pay 2.4 now. We're reported as 3.6 because it looks big to our investors in the market. 3.6 is higher than 2.4. It's a big number, and we don't really have the kind of pockets that Microsoft has. But this shows how serious we are.
Out here delivering some Sun Tzu. The deadliest killers disarm their victims with a smile.
That's what I'm saying. For the watch.
Good sir. What do you think, Rand?
For Bridge 4, right, Slow-Mo?
There we go.
What do you think, Rand, because there's a lot of talk about, they paid too much and all of this stuff. And I know not everybody's a backseat economist and all of that, but the idea that they paid, at the end of it all, ultimately they will have paid about almost 3.7 or something after tax or whatever for this entire deal, and of course, the Twitter streets are ablaze with the fact that all the games stay multi-platform. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think Bungie's the only studio that has the cachet to be able to pull a deal like this off with independence, right? And we had heard years ago that Microsoft was talking to Bungie, and it was pretty much the same deal. Like, Bungie wanted
independence,
essentially over $2 billion, and they also wanted independence.
Want the Mojang deal, yeah.
And whatever, talks broke off, but clearly Bungie has been looking for, quote unquote, a sugar daddy, somebody to essentially fund everything they want to make. I keep
saying it. Bungie's for the streets, baby.
I'm just saying, Bungie has a lot of plans. Bungie has a lot of plans, not only the video game space, but in the multimedia space with TV and movies and stuff. But I think the way they're situated, they needed a first party or a console a platform holder to essentially fund their dreams, right? But see, this is the difference between a studio that has a very successful IP and a studio that doesn't. Look at Bungie right here, 3.6 billion. Say what you will about Destiny, I don't like it, but like people love that game. It is very successful.
Oh yeah.
It basically has like a million users every single day. Like when you look at this, like when you look at
for a game that came out 8 years ago,
and whatever they
ago?
put out is going to be a big deal. So you look at someone like Insomniac that sold before all this for 250 million. But the reason they sold so low was because sure, they sold before all this acquisition stuff really kicked off, but also because Insomniac doesn't own any successful IP. You know, say what you will about Sunset Overdrive. Some people might say, I love that game, and I did too, but not a successful IP. Neither was Fuse. So with Bungie, you're getting the Destiny IP, which is worth so much. That's why Activision Blizzard cost $70 billion, because you're owning all the IP. You're owning Call of Duty, right? Yep. So yeah, they overpaid, but everybody's overpaying now because it's a seller's market, right? So basically Bungie was able to get what they wanted. You know, Sony's saying they're going to use their expertise to help basically give the experience and the tools needed for their 10 other live service games, the know-how to kind of build stuff like that. So if the cost is basically Bungie being an independent publisher and doing what they want, then to Sony it's probably like, okay, Destiny will be our Minecraft, or this team's going to be our Minecraft. Whatever they put out will be everywhere. We'll just continue to rake in money. We'll have a consistent revenue stream, and we're going to use the knowledge and the talent that, you know, they have, and we're going to, you know, have Insomniac, because there's rumors Insomniac's making a live service game, right? There's rumor that Guerrilla's making a live service game.
Listen, they could help get Fractions out the door. Factions 2
I
out
doubt
the
it.
door.
Factions 2 is supposed to be coming out this year, so I doubt Bungie's going to help in any regard on that one.
You think that's coming out this year?
Rumors have it coming out this year. Rumors have it launching at the same time the HBO Last of Us TV show comes out, which would be smart.
Yeah,
which would be incredibly smart.
Also a little bit too convenient for a rumor, but
I mean, you never know. I mean, if it doesn't come out this year, it comes out next year, and I don't think Bungie could really help that much with it now. But no, I mean, I think also...
Hey, no, hold on a minute. Sorry, Rand. Can we highlight Slow-Mo's comment?
I actually just put it up there. Hey, Rand, Phil needs to assign Kotek to the Bridge 4.
No, I think Kotek needs to scrape creme from the walls of the chasms. Right? Where you pick up the old fabric.
As much as y'all hate it, he's going to be thrown off a bridge, and his golden parachute will glide him to obscurity. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. It is what it is, my friends. But yes, continue. I'm sorry.
No, it was just
let him herd the chulls.
I think also there is
the money, right?
Jeff Grubb reported that Microsoft was also talking to Bungie as well. But I think the Activision deal just happened, and that was Microsoft's #1 priority. And I think Sony was like, let's just get Bungie right now. Who knows who else was talking to Bungie? Like, let's just wrap them up, even if Rand? What?
You know, like that conversation about Jeff Grubb talking about the rumors that they were talking as well. That has been spoken of quite some time. But honestly, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me different. But I've never thought that they were serious about getting repurchased by Microsoft. I made this analogy on Boom Show. It's like, you know, that crazy ex-girlfriend that now you see is hanging out with other people and is doing what righteous. And yes, they're doing well, but every time you think about them, all you think is, that chick threw my stuff out the window. Like, screw that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Different, man. It's different because it's a different Xbox,
it's a different world, yes.
Microsoft.
And we see that, but you don't think that and I think that all of that stuff about original on Microsoft, Activision's deal with them, all of that has basically enforced their sense of independence. You want us to be with you? We want complete independence. Dude, you just give us the money. Let us do us.
Did you ever hear what Marty O'Donnell said? Like after they won their independence or bought their independence back from Microsoft, and they basically signed a deal with Activision. they and the main leaders at Bungie went out to dinner with Activision, right? The Activision execs. And Marty was basically like, these dudes were just kind of like talking down to Bungie, and Marty O'Donnell like freaked out and was just like, I wanted to cancel the deal right then and there and go back to Microsoft. So, I mean, Marty O'Donnell doesn't work at Bungie anymore. But I do think Bungie wanted to sell to somebody.
Worked.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft. I mean, it's out there. Microsoft could have been the publisher of Destiny.
Were they willing to pay that $3.6 billion or whatever, and give them that Mojang deal?
Well, no. He means back when they first did that.
Well, also
there's a chance that they could have gone back instead of the Activision deal.
Well, there's a chance that they could have been the publisher of Destiny and not Activision.
Yeah.
Also, I do think, here's the thing, like I think Bungie had no qualms about coming back home, because I think they knew they needed a big first party to fund their dreams.
The funding. Yes,
but the thing is, what's different here is, I think Phil wanted exclusivity of Bungie's next game. And I think that that might have been the sticking point.
Remember way back when I said Phil's not a nice man?
Where I think Phil wanted exclusivity of their next game.
Yeah.
And that was sort of non-negotiable. And then this comes along, and Sony's basically like, yeah, you can have your independence.
Yep.
And
Call of Duty's no longer ours. You can have whatever you want, Bungie. Please just come.
That's going to be interesting, because Jazz is still riding that train. That Call of Duty is not going to be taken away from PlayStation.
See, I think that half of it will. I think that Warzone and Warzone 2 will definitely be available, but that I don't think that actual new Call of Duty will be like the new console, if you will. What do you call it? The ones with campaigns will be launched after 2024. What do you think, everyone?
I think that it'll be, if it is true, and I don't know that it's true, right? If it is true that they're going to move COD to a bi-yearly release, I think when they skip that year,
that'll be the last one.
Mainline COD will come back after taking a year off as a big deal exclusive on Xbox.
That's where I think too. All the while, still keeping Warzone fire, still doing the events, still trying to push it like a service, like, take your drink, like the metaverse.
And Warzone, and if Warzone 2 comes out next year and it is next gen only, that means Call of Duty will be on next gen, will be on PS5 for that whole generation.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And the following generation, I think generations are going away now that we're moving to this sort of hardware agnostic world. They'll find new reasons to sell you stuff, but I think that that's where you the free to play stuff, that's where you keep it. You keep it everywhere. These guys get it, and you use the mainline stuff to drag people over, at least for now. And I think. So this is just the strategy part of it, right? Rand, what do you think about this? What if, while they're still in acquisition mode, they don't want the PR of them taking something like COD away? So while they still want to pick up another publisher, which we will talk about maybe who later, maybe while they're in that mode, they just keep it multi-plat, just to not rattle any sabers or cages or ruffle any feathers.
We'll see. I mean, Jez seems pretty adamant it's not going to be taken from PlayStation. I'm of Sante's opinion.
Yep.
Warzone will remain there. They'll have the premium Call of Duties that release yearly, or every other year will be exclusive. But who knows? That word Phil used, desire, still being debated and dissected and looked over. Who knows what it could mean?
Oh man!
And we're not gonna know. We're not gonna even know until 2024, because the next two Call of Duty games are on PlayStation regardless, anyways.
That's right.
So
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
We won't even know. We won't even know for forever. It'll seem like forever. So
do you think that the fact that this Bungie deal and them affirming that they'll stay multi-platform, which then technically puts 2 PlayStation games on Xbox, one being MLB for reasons, and the other being Bungie's Destiny, and even what they're saying, future games would also be multi-platform. Do you think that changes the equation for Xbox? Meaning, oh, we were going to put them exclusive, but now they're playing ball. We have incentive to play ball as well?
No, I don't think so.
See,
I think Microsoft is going to
you.
do what's best for Microsoft, and I think
right.
PlayStation is going to do what's best for PlayStation.
Yep.
And I think getting Bungie was something Sony wanted, and they just had to give up that independence. And they probably don't view it as a big thing to lose one game, but
Well,
then
technically
also
one publisher at this point, because they're future games too, they say.
Well, I was more talking about Destiny, where they would lose like matter, right? It would not be exclusive. I don't really think that matters that much to them, because I've seen some people say, "Well, this is just the beginning of Sony going multi-platform," as in God of War is going to come to Xbox, and I'm like, "You're nuts! You're nuts!"
Yeah.
What they're talking about multi-platform in the sense is PC.
Sure.
But like, I don't know, like the whole Bungie thing, like they're pretty like unequivocally talking about like coming to competing consoles.
We are fully multi-plat, even though PlayStation is backing us. We're coming everywhere.
Yeah,
now, I think the reason why some people may be threading that needle is, specifically with Jim Ryan in charge, the man's about the money. When you start seeing that money coming in from all those various sources, won't it entice you to put more out there like that? Because then you get more money in, right? Do you think that's a wrong assumption? I get they get the value of their platform where people come to, but like right now, I'm a double dipper. I did it twice with Horizon and God of War, right? I doubt, because of that move that me and many people are doing, I see a world where day and date on PC becomes a possibility. You disagree?
I've always thought day and date on PC was going to happen at some point. Sony is basically doing this kind of goes back to the Xbox One 2013 thing, right? The reason the Xbox One DRM and all that stuff blew up in their face is because they tried to change how everything worked overnight, right? They tried to basically say, listen, this is how physical game ownership works now. This is how trading, like they tried to change literally everything overnight, and you can't do that to consumers that are conditioned. Were just too early. Yeah. Sure, but the thing is, you have to lead people by the nose, and you have to lead them very, very, very slowly and carefully, right? All that stuff would have happened on its own, like it did with. Look at everybody was like, nobody's gonna want digital, right? Nobody, it's all about physical, and right now. It's 65-35.
Oh, we can keep going. People say nobody wants Connect. Oh, it's recording us. It's watching us. What do you all have in your houses now with your Alexas and your Googles?
But the thing is Microsoft tried to force change, right?
Messaging is always the problem.
So with PlayStation, they wisely learned that you can't really do this stuff overnight. So they're basically doing baby steps. Oh, here's Death Stranding. Oh, here's Horizon. And if you go back to look at the Horizon announcement, they were like, don't worry, guys. It's just one game. Yeah. The best place to play is still PlayStation. And then suddenly it's the whole slate. And now they're talking about, oh, we're multi-platform, as you can see.
We're going beyond the console now.
So basically what happens is Sony realizes that a lot of their fan base, and this doesn't go for everybody, but a lot of their fan base are basically crybabies, right?
They get triggered really
Something
easily.
goes wrong, they cry and complain. And they knew if they were bringing their games to PC that community would bitch. So basically what they do is they do it slowly. They let them pitch a fit.
Segue, good
they let them basically cry themselves out to sleep, right? How you do with a little baby. Let them cry themselves out so they can go to bed. And by the time Sony then does start doing closer to day and date stuff, it's accepted. It's normal. It's just how it is. That's what Sony's doing, right? So yes, Sony's going to be doing day and dates at some point. Maybe Factions is the first day and date game, because that's a multiplayer game.
We've been waiting for that, by the way.
You do it on PS5. You do it on PC. Like if you need all the players, you need to sell microtransactions and stuff. Those are the games that you would want day one. Like on your PlayStation, on PC day one, in Spartacus subscription service potentially, but realistically, if you want, these games need to be free to play. Like Last of Us Factions needs to be free to play. I mean, we'll see what the monetization scheme for all that stuff is, but it's all. I've been saying this for a long time. Their games are going to go to day one on PC, and anybody saying that they never will, it's like, I always say never say never. It's going to happen. And their games are going to be day one on Spartacus at some point. Yep. May not be this year, may not be next year, may not be the year after, but they're going to experiment with it, and then it's just going to be normal. That's how this stuff goes. They're just they're taking baby steps. Exactly. Baby steps, man, and then they lead you exactly to where they want you to be. It's an illusion of choice.
So who else does this?
Hold on a moment.
Apple. They do it with their TikTok release of their phones.
Before we go forward, we're gonna switch to this conversation real quick, and I like the transition to the crybabies, because this is the juicy story that I can't get away from. But before I do, I see a bunch of folks in the chat. I appreciate y'all being here. I see a lot of likes being given. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so. I need to be the host that says that, because supposedly that helps. So I'm going to do that. But
yeah, there's a lot more people watching than there are likes. So if you could,
appreciate that. Hit
the like button, please.
Yes. But on the crybaby note, let us transition to this Adam Conover conversation that blew up all over the damn internet.
By the way, sidebar. Yes. Rand, how long do we have you, sir?
Yes, please. Yes, let's know.
I'm good for like another 45 minutes.
All right,
fantastic.
Cool deal.
Fantastic. Yes. So
because I want to get to acquisition talk.
We have acquisition talk in here as well. That's the last story.
I just want to make sure we got enough time so we can. It's the last story of the day. I just want to
touch on this because he talked about crybabies, and that literally just brought me right to this story, and I have to ask about it. So, for those who haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor. Go out there on your Twitters, because I'm sure you've seen it. Somebody liking it, somebody retweeting it. And when you watch this, I also will ask you to do the favor of then seeking out the Destin Legary a video that he made, where he, in the nicest way possible, completely dispels all this. But if you're watching most of these shows, you've heard all these talking points before. You know that most of them are garbage. But this was kind of full-throated, and absolutely ridiculous. So I feel like it demands some conversation, because it's gone far and wide, right? And basically, this is just fear-mongering to the highest extent. It's going to lead to monopolistic behavior, Amazon-style takeover of the gaming industry. They're doing their best to give a better workplace, but then ultimately they're going to end up being worse for developers in the long run. Weirdness. Rand,
all right. I also would like to point out that this is a TikTok from a guy who has made his entire career out of mansplaining things to people. Yes. This is Adam Conover of Adam Ruins Everything. Just for the context of everything that we're talking about.
Whose newest show is on Netflix.
Whose new show is on Netflix. Yes. Very true. Very true. What did you think of this, Rand? I know you do your best. You do better than we do in staying out of that ridiculous frame.
By the way, this is why he wanted to make sure he said they're not the Netflix of games, because that's
they're the Amazon of games. Yeah, okay. Yes. Amazon doesn't know how to make any games, but it was look,
Mr.
I understand.
Rand Al Thor dropping a little slander. Good job.
I understand that, like, the future, who knows how the future is going to play out, right?
Yeah.
We don't know. Nobody knows. The idea, though, that, like, this is it was like kind of like this, like, that Microsoft is this mustache twirly evil villain.
Yeah. That's right.
That is
and PlayStation is this gazelle, this sheep that's about to get eaten. Like, get out of
here.
The
funniest thing is in this guy's rant, he's like, "Well, Nintendo's gonna be okay," and he didn't mention Tencent, but then literally was like, Sony's screwed. He's like, Sony's and it's like, you're talking about the market leader. Like, so Nintendo's gonna be okay.
All they make are games. What about the movies that are literally gangbusters? What about their TV business? What about all these other businesses that they are thriving in?
Yeah, his whole point was that basically Microsoft is going to lose money on Xbox and Game Pass for the foreseeable future, and that's okay. And because their whole point is to basically dominate and strangle competition, and then when there's no more competitors, then jack up the prices
and become
not only jack up the prices, but
make
bad games too, because that was Netflix. His whole thing.
You know who jacked up prices on games?
Who did?
Who's charging $70 for first-party games right now, and who isn't?
Interesting.
Let's let that one sit for a while.
And who used their position in the market to lock content away from consumers, and who didn't?
See, Microsoft went from having no games to now having a monopoly.
Games.
And I saw an interesting tweet from somebody. Where is it? Because I sent it to Jez. It was from this guy, Electric DCX. He tweeted, Xbox has no games, but is also a Thanos-sized monopoly, but is also third place, but is also buying up the entire industry, but also only has Halo, Forza, and Gears, but also isn't worth $1 a month, but also threatens to destroy the industry, but also has no chance of winning, but also ... right?
Yeah, but also doesn't make any good games and can't.
Yeah, and can't.
Yeah. Right?
That's right. Yeah. Yep. I don't know. Like, and Everborn, you're absolutely right in this. He's basically throwing red meat to the base, as they say. He's giving them the talking points they need for the next however many months this whole acquisition thing takes to take hold with Activision Blizzard. Basically giving people, letting them write down notes. Okay, I need to say this. I need to say that.
You know what I wish people would do, Asante?
Please.
Is when someone like this has a bad take, I just wish people would ignore it and not tweet it and not retweet it, because too many times I'll be sitting on my Twitter feed and I'll just see nonsense retweeted to oblivion, and it's like you're giving these people exactly what they want and crave. They want attention. They want their message to reach everywhere. Just ignore it and it goes away. But nobody would, for whatever reason, can do that. They all want to quote retweet and dig at the guy, but it's like you're giving him what he wants. Like his take was absurd, like completely absurd. Like I don't know, like his whole thing of like Microsoft will raise the prices and Game Pass is they're gonna, like, trust me, Microsoft doesn't want to lose money on Game Pass forever. Like the idea that this, like, his argument would have more merit if Microsoft was only putting games in Game Pass and you couldn't buy them any other way. But the fact that you can buy them, the fact that they leave Game Pass, or a lot of games leave Game Pass after a certain amount of time, all that stuff, like, kind of validates his whole argument. I don't know. It's just funny to me. Like, oh yeah, like Microsoft, who was in last place and doesn't make any great games, is now suddenly this gigantic threat to the video game industry. Yeah. And the current market leader is in his words, he said effed. Like they're effed. But somehow Nintendo's okay, and I'm sure Tencent will be okay, and EA will be okay, and everybody else will be okay except for Sony. What this really screams to me is just this dude is a PlayStation fanboy who doesn't like the idea of Microsoft competing, because we heard it so often last generation that Microsoft has no games and that they need to compete. And suddenly when Microsoft starts competing by buying up studios and then buying Bethesda, now buying Activision Blizzard, these PlayStation fans are like, whoa, not like that. It's like, well, you wanted this. You wanted competition. This is what you're getting.
But here's the thing. They have more money than we do. Here's the thing, Rand. They didn't want competition.
Of course they
didn't.
And
they would have been perfectly fine if Phil wasn't able to convince Satya and the board that they should invest $100 billion in gaming. And if the Xbox One went away, they would have been happy with that. Yep. Right? And again, what we are ultimately talking about here, and by the way, to your point about not sharing it, I've been beating that drum for a while, and that is why I subtweet. So you may understand the context of what I'm talking about sometimes, or you won't. But I am never doing a screenshot or giving everybody the shine of, and I know we're doing this like literally right now, but I'm talking about my feed.
Unfortunately, it is the news of the day, unfortunately, so we have to speak
I do agree with you. This is the outcome that a lot of these people with these takes wanted, and we are going to be annoyingly hearing this until a few months after the deal closes, until the next acquisition, and then there will be new talking points. But anyway, the thing is this: the market is working as designed, right? So this is what happens. Sometimes people are the market leader. Sega was the market leader, right? They made great things. The Prometheus of gaming, they flew too close to the sun, and then a new player came in that they couldn't match. And you know what that player did? They used their money, they bought out timed exclusives because they didn't have the developers at the time and lo and behold, the company that was in number 1 or the number 2 position, they could no longer compete in this world.
You know what?
And so they had to go the way of the third-party publisher.
Sony has the experience here. In the 80s and early 90s, they were TVs. Back with CRT days. If you didn't have a Trinitron, you didn't have a TV. They owned the market. They were like 80% of the market. What happened? They flew too close to the sun, they didn't iterate, and then they fell like a stone. But Sony's smart. They diversified, and here they are, still plugging away. The TV business is still fine, but it's not what it used to be. The idea that we have to keep them on the pedestal because that's where they are is ridiculous. Like, absolutely ridiculous. If they're going to fall, it's because they lack innovation. Someone's doing it better. This guy is out here talking about we should stop them because they're giving you a deal that's undeniable. Like, that's a bad thing.
Right. It's too good. It's too... They're competing by offering you something good with games you want to play at a price you can afford.
Ridiculous.
Right? And the idea that a guy that has his own TV show is going to poo-poo people who may not be able to afford all the games that he can afford at $70 a pop, or maybe he's buying the $218 toys, right? Maybe he can afford that, but some other people can't.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And they want the value that Game Pass provides. But again, even if what he is saying is true and Sony gets pushed out of the market, which is ridiculous on its face, that would mean that they did not innovate. And that is the nature of the market. And if you think we should just prop companies up because it makes us feel good, then we're not talking about capitalism anymore. Then we're not talking about competition. We're saying, I like these guys, so go keep them afloat. And Microsoft, just be the nice guy and die. Yeah, basically. Right? Because let's understand what happened. What happened here? You had a too big to fail mega publisher of World of Warcraft and Call of Duty and all the other things that they do, and Candy Crush, right? Even though they're printing money, they were running the company into the ground. Shares prices fell by about 25-30%. They're being investigated by the Department of Justice in California. They're being sued. They're fighting off unions trying to be started. They're bleeding talent. They're on their way down. So what people would have preferred is that Activision either get bought by Tencent or they just fold out of business, as long as Microsoft doesn't have it. Right?
Yeah.
As long as Sony doesn't have to think on their feet and Sony won't have any pressure on them, that's all fine. But Microsoft buys the company that came to them. This is not a hostile takeover. This is not, they didn't buy Activision via proxy battle, right? Where they bought themselves enough shares so they could have seats on the board of directors that would okay the sale. That's not how this happened. Activision came to Microsoft barefoot and hungry. And Microsoft said, we'll try to save you. And guess what? These are people that do not like their employees, because somehow we've made the leap that phase 1, Microsoft buys Activision. Phase 2, nothing. Phase 3, they're a monopoly. Right? And then phase 4, bad for workers, because we can throw those buzzwords out there without actually justifying. Because if you watch that video, he did not actually tell you how this would be bad for workers.
No, he just said
all he told you is that you should give Sony $70.
Yeah, basically.
It's
right?
it's like almost this dude listened to Colin Moriarty a bunch of times about this stuff and then made his own sort of thing. I don't know. I think look, I don't know how the future's going to go.
Something, the dark side.
I understand it. Maybe if this was Microsoft in the 90s, maybe because they were all about that life. But this Microsoft really hasn't engaged in those sort of things recently. So I don't know. Like, also the idea that like because people brought up, well, Sony is a Spartacus coming up, and he was quick to be like, but it doesn't count because they don't have listen, when Spartacus comes out in spring, so like let's see, Jennifer, April, May, or June, probably May, maybe. Yeah, I'd probably say around May-ish. And it's a combination of PS Plus and PlayStation Now. Do you think that subscription service is going to start at $0?
Yeah, I know, right?
That subscription, and what is PlayStation Plus at right now? 48 million, something like that. They were just recently reported.
Yeah.
When they combine those things and it becomes essentially Game Pass, but without the day one titles, you know it's going to have more subscribers than Game Pass. It'll have almost double.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But somehow PlayStation Plus doesn't count.
Yep.
Somehow, like this whole monopoly thing where you see people talking, well, it's not about like the revenue that Microsoft is third. It's also about like the monopoly that Game Pass is going to have. And it's like, hello, Game Pass isn't even the number one subscription service out there. It's PlayStation Plus by almost half or almost 100%.
Yep.
Like, so like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know. The idea here that suddenly just because they bought Activision Blizzard means Xbox is going to be number one and that Game Pass is going to have 100 million subscribers and somehow it's going to force Sony into basically bankruptcy and leaving the industry, and then Microsoft is going to like maniacally laugh and be like, haha, you thought you were paying $10 for games, now you're paying $30 a month, and oh, you thought you could buy games for $60, now you can't buy them at all. Like that whole like,
and he thinks
idea
that in
is
that
absurd.
World, he thinks in that world that the Apples don't exist, the Amazons don't exist, the Tencents don't exist, to then potentially undercut Microsoft, to then offer the consumer that good thing that they're used to, like as if they will dash everyone and then they will rise the price and nobody will stand up to give an alternative. Absolutely one-sided weirdness argument.
This
but
is
you know what? I'll let you finish, Everborn, but let us move on to Activision's to more acquisition talk because you wanted to go there. But please finish your thoughts.
Yeah. So again, I just want to point out that this is how the market works, and don't tell me that the company that is bringing in $25 billion a year can't afford to do day and date.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
Yeah, just because they've said that does not mean you should believe them, because they also said they can't believe, they believe in generations, and what happened to that idea?
Right, and this idea that, they're going to be third place in revenue is he said that we're using a talking point that Microsoft provided us. You're using a talking point that Sony provided you about $70 games.
There you go.
Poor Sony. They need that extra $10. How are they going to stay afloat without the extra $10?
Everyone's extra $10.
This is the thing. What it also discounts is the reason that Disney Plus was able to come in at an introductory price and hit 100 million so fast, and you could have an HBO Max and a Paramount Plus and a Quibi and whatever other thing. Because remember, Netflix didn't Netflix the market and push everybody out, even though they were offering all of these services. Neither does Prime. Other people came out with other services. After, guess what? Netflix trained the market to understand what a subscription movie service is.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, now that people know that and they understand what paying a monthly fee to receive content is, then they will make a decision and say, hey, I understand that. So I'm more willing to either keep or forego my Netflix subscription and also get a Hulu subscription and also get an HBO Max subscription, because that's what Microsoft is doing right now for the entire gaming industry. So when Sony finally does come around and say day and date, people understand it and they'll say, hey, I don't want to pay this amount. And then what you'll see is Microsoft will have 150 million subscribers. Maybe Sony will also have 100 or 150 million subscribers. And guess what? Microsoft isn't the only game in town for cloud streaming, because Google, which we're not talking about today, is doing what we ultimately said back in the first episode of this show. Stadia is a POC for a B2B service that they're going to offer to other publishers,
true.
right? So Microsoft won't be controlling the back end or the front end. Pause. But the thing is, this is how the market
Xbox
works.
University says, Everborn, stop stealing my talking points. Continue, good sir. Go ahead.
Anytime, man. Anytime. We share them. We take notes. But again, so this is how the market works. And if Sony cannot live in this market, then someone else will rise to take their place. That means they didn't innovate.
That's right.
Let's not make excuses for these for the number one console maker out there.
And in that odd world where Microsoft becomes this monolith, someone will rise, as as you're describing here, to then take their place as somebody who will provide.
Yes, because video game publishers are like Bebe's kids. They don't die, they multiply.
They keep sprouting more. Yes. Look at Devolver Digital.
And points to anyone who remembers Bebe's kids.
Oh, bro, I still have that movie. I love that movie. Let's continue. Okay. Let us continue. So, okay. Before we round out this episode, because we're about 2 hours in, we figured we'd end off with a nice bang, right? People keep talking about that darn acquisition season, all that. I call it cuffing season. It's time to, the musical chairs are playing. The DJ screaming elimination round, and you're trying to grab one before the seats are gone. Jeff Keighley supposedly had a conversation where he said what a lot of people are already continuing to say. Even the actual horses' mouths, they've come out and said, both on Microsoft side and on PlayStation side, and others have said that this is not the last thing you'll see from them. So
wait,
I guess my
was
question,
horse's mouth? Were you being like facetious? Is it a way to say pony, or you being?
I wasn't, but I appreciate that you took it there, good sir. That's not where I was going, but thank you, sir. But I'll start with you, Rand. I think I've heard you speak a little bit about this. Where do you think it goes next? Whether that be Xbox, whether that be PlayStation. We know that PlayStation still have some money in the bank. I think last report it was like $10 billion still there, but that's for the entire company.
Because remember, they saved $1 billion that they deferred.
That's right.
On this Bungie payment.
That's for the entire Sony company. I doubt that they're wringing out their wallets to buy another company. So they have about 10 billion, I hear. Where do you see them going next? And Xbox also has a war chest and all that. Where do you see these acquisitions happening next?
It seems like anything's on the table. With PlayStation, Jim's already said they're going to acquire more, just like Satya said last year. So I have no doubt we'll see more acquisitions by PlayStation this year. I think maybe a target for them is Ember Lab, the people that make Kenna.
That would be dope.
They've even said it like they put their whole holiday on that game. So I could see Sony buying them, bringing them in. There's been rumors about like Arc System Works, who makes Guilty Gear. I can see that happening.
Dealer has been speaking about that pretty frequently. I remember him saying that's still potentially in the works.
Yeah. Publishers, some people talk about Square Enix. Makes a lot. It's it's like, it does make a little bit of sense. But PlayStation is going to acquire. I don't know if they'll acquire big, but they're definitely going to keep on acquiring studios that they're working with. Maybe they buy Deviation, maybe they buy Jade Raymond's studio or whatever. And then on the Xbox side, look, I'm of the opinion that Microsoft wants this deal to go through no matter what. They get so much from this, from mobile with King to PC with Blizzard to...
People don't talk enough about King. Those guys print money.
Because it's not sexy. It's not sexy.
I know. And it's not an environment that they usually frequent. They don't know.
You saw Phil's interview yesterday where he said, once the Bethesda acquisition was completed, the board was like, what's next? And they were talking about casual and mobile content. And they essentially got that with Activision. So you get Call of Duty, you get all this other stuff. So what's next for Xbox? They're working closely with some third parties on...
some interesting third parties.
You got Crystal Dynamics on Perfect Dark. You got IO on Project Dragon. You have Avalanche on Contraband. You have, Certain Affinity on the Monster Hunter game.
I'm surprised Certain Affinity hasn't been the top of the list from jump. They have been close with Microsoft for years.
But the thing is, it's kind of like one of those. It's like, why buy the cow when you get the milk?
The whole
right?
Square Enix with Sony.
But now everybody wants to buy. Maybe
now that it's cuffing season, things change a little bit.
So when you look at those, those are all targets. But I do think so. I don't think Microsoft will buy a publisher before this deal goes through. So I think you can immediately, wipe away the idea of them buying Capcom or Square or Take-Two while this Activision Blizzard deal is going.
Mind your business. Let the man talk. Right? Let the man talk.
However, I think once the deal goes through, they 100% will look at another publisher. And when you look at the type of content that Xbox needs, you have all these studios they bought from 2018 to 2019 or 2020. You have the Bethesda acquisition, you have Activision, what that gives you. What is Xbox still lacking? right?
Say it.
And you can say you're lacking Japanese content, content from overseas. So
I can think of a publisher in Japan. Go
I
ahead.
know Everborn will say Sega.
Stop
They just dropped their arcade business, make themselves more attractive. And I asked Jez about this on Xbox 2. And it was like, if you had a choice between Sega, Capcom, and Square Enix, and if you were Phil and you were Xbox, not if you were Everborn Saga or Keosante or Rand Al Thor, who would you get?
Or Lord Cognito.
Right?
That's right.
And I said before the Activision acquisition, I would have said Sega. Because Sega gets you Sonic and platformers. It also gets you a couple high-profile PC developers for all that stuff, right? And it gets you some Japanese stuff with like Persona and like Yakuza and things like that.
You really think Atlas wouldn't just be like, we out? Screw these guys.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe. But after the Activision Blizzard thing, and now you have Blizzard, and now you have Crash and Spyro, I don't necessarily think you need Sega anymore.
Whoa. Hold on. Slow down.
I don't
like where this is going.
I think Capcom is the much more strategic purchase.
Okay.
Capcom has Monster Hunter. Capcom has Street Fighter. Capcom has Devil May Cry and Resident Evil. They are. I think they're the better purchase. However, I do think that Microsoft may want to look into. I do think they're going to look into a Japanese publisher, but it won't be until after this deal goes through. Who knows if they'll be able to get one? But I do think that's where maybe like the content that's missing will be found is over there, because you essentially have all the other content that you would need outside of maybe some individual studios here and there. And then you can basically just be, all right, we got 38 studios now. We got everything covered. We're good to go. And you be fine. But I know we already know what Everborn's going to say. So like we can just
skip over
say what you need
right?
to say, Asante, and then we can just end the show.
We understand.
I'm gonna come at it from a different angle, but go ahead. I'll.
No, you know what? I actually, before we get to you, Everborn, because yes, we know what you're gonna say, but still.
No, you don't. You don't know what I'm gonna say.
Okay, no, I look forward to hearing your take on it.
There's a difference between what I want and what I think will happen.
Okay, Rand, what do you think about the idea that? Yes, some people want publishers, right? We know that the war chest that Sony possesses is not that massive in comparison. What do you think that while the sleeping giant waits for regulatory approvals, they go in there and scoop up Sega real quick?
Right now? Like Xbox buys Sega right now?
No, I'm talking about PlayStation. Because hey, Persona like Square Enix, like the Persona franchise, like Final Fantasy, is like home on PlayStation, right? Home. And for a long time now, they've enjoyed the milk for free without having to pay for the cow. And now, as you say, it is cuffing season. You have to, solidify your ownership of these franchises. While the sleeping giant wakes, wouldn't now be the perfect time to either make a deal for Atlas or Sega in total, because they are a publisher and they don't break PlayStation's bank necessarily. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's certainly possible. I wouldn't say no. I mean, there's also a possibility they go and try to get From Software from the parent company that is their own buy. Look. I think anything's on the table now. Before this Activision Blizzard thing, I always thought like Activision Blizzard and like Take-Two and EA were too expensive.
Too big.
Right? Too big. It would cost too much money. But then the stock tanked of Activision's, and the board wanted Bobby Kotick out, and Xbox was there with enough money to be like, listen, let's do this.
Scooped him up like a hero.
Kind of like, the circumstances were right. But now everybody, Sony's got money to spend. They need to protect their interests.
Yep.
Yeah, if we woke up on Monday and they're like, we acquired Sega, I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. 100%.
And Everborn, that means your world where they might throw that Ratchet and Clank money at Sonic might actually come to fruition. Wouldn't that make you happy? Although we will say, where I stand with Everborn on this is, any publisher and or developer that Sony buys is a little bit of a tier, because that's $70 that comes out your ass like, per game, which we haven't seen.
Who's all the foul language coming
I
from
know.
now?
Hey! I had to drop one real quick.
Think Wu-Tang is for the children, man.
Is it really though? But my point is, until Spartacus comes and delivers us from $70 purchases, right? That is the unfortunate side effect of when you have competition and one throws it in a service that you already pay for and the other expects $70 per, right? So that is the unfortunate side of it. But if you want to see your Sonic franchise get the respect they deserve, get that Ratchet and Clank money and that attention, that may be your best way forward. I don't even think that would happen necessarily if like Nintendo were to purchase them, which we've already heard what Nintendo had to say about it. They were like, yeah, these fools out here doing what they're doing, we just go ahead and keep collecting the check. That's basically is what Nintendo said. But you don't like that idea, Mr. Everborn Saga? Like Sega finding a new home at PlayStation, because they could do that. They have the money for it.
I could see. I just don't know that Sega gives Sony what they're looking for, right?
Holding on to the Atlas Studios that they really love, that really, brings those JRPG lovers to PlayStation. People buy PlayStations for Persona. People do.
Yeah. But I think Sony's what they're trying to do is, again, whatever, they have less money to spend. I know this would be a smaller deal compared to the others.
Yep.
But I would think that for what Sony is looking for, their money would be better spent on someone who could give them, service-based games and if they, if they got Capcom, then that would help with remember they bought Evo, right? So they don't have a first party game.
They need a
fighting game.
Make it, yeah,
so if you're the home of Street Fighter, like officially, I feel like that makes a little bit more sense. But listen, what I ultimately want is for Sega to have a console home again. And so if I'm ordering it out, number one, I prefer if it was Microsoft, just because of the history that we have there, which I won't go over and bore everyone with again. But then Nintendo. But the problem is, if Nintendo were to get Sega, I don't think some of their more edgy content, I don't think that they would greenlight some of that stuff, right? So what does a Nintendo Altered Beast look like? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you even get that? So
well, but you know what? Even if you see an Altered Beast by Nintendo, it'll look like the Altered Beast that you know. Like they don't focus on moving. Well, they do in gameplay, but not necessarily in technology. So, I love the Nintendo games, but until they start taking the tech seriously, I always discount them. I don't know why.
Listen, Nintendo's Nintendo. They know games are games. And for me, if Nintendo got them, the only bonus for me would be, I think we would get a next level Sonic playable experience. But if it went to Sony, I'd probably have a good cry, but I'd be happy about it at the end of the day.
You'd cry in your soup a little bit?
Right, that's it. But ultimately, I know that Sony would do all the IP justice, right?
People seeing you trying to stay magnanimous, but the tears are falling.
I'm not gonna cry.
No, I'm not. It's fine. They can have them. It's cool. We are one Monday news story away, folks, from seeing Everborn cry like a baby on the internet. This is what
I'm saying. I told you, everybody knows the first thing I said when the Activision deal got announced was, how many Segas does this cost?
Oh, but so many Segas. Holy.
All that being said, so it would make sense that for their next publisher purchase, they focus in a market that they'd like to grow in. And we know that we want to see them. We know that they want to grow in the Eastern market, right?
Okay.
So them purchasing a Japanese publisher would make sense, and someone who would make games that would appeal to the Japanese audience as well as the Korean audience and the Chinese market and all that. But if we look at their purchases thus far, we see that they've been focusing very heavily on where their strengths are, which is the Western market. So genres that are, made popular and dominated by Western audiences are the first-person shooter, the Western RPG, strategy games, right? That is where they have made their purchases, because that's the markets they understand. And we all know how terrible they are at localization, even though they are getting better. So I wonder if they have decided this is what our identity is, and their next publisher is something more along the lines of Ubisoft, if they're still available by then, because they want to bolster out their portfolio in the EU and have a base there. Then they do want to, because that's one that they could think they could.
Ubisoft is king of the GAAS games. They are king of the GAAS games these days.
And Ubisoft matches their model in terms of like output. Like they can give you Assassin's Creed, and they can give you a Rainbow Six, and they could bring back finally Sam Fisher, right? They could bring back Splinter Cell as like a first party IP. So they could do those things, and they have a better chance at recapturing Europe than they do at capturing Asia Pacific in the first place. So me personally, I want Sega, but does Microsoft want to play in a region where they don't really understand? So they would, the last 20 years has proven that. So they would throw money into that region basically to say, are we really buying you, or are we just giving you money and then you're just going to do whatever you feel like and report back to us? I don't know if they want to do that. At least they haven't proven that that's something that they're interested in doing. So it really, to me, seems like they're trying to cement their Western identity. And I think, unfortunately, I wouldn't be mad at the end of the day if it was Ubisoft, but Ubisoft apparently has more employees than Activision Blizzard, King, Xbox Game Studios, and Bethesda almost combined, because I think they have like 20,000 employees.
And they also have their share of horrible news stories that are dogging.
And unlike Bobby K, Yves Guillemot is not going to want to step back.
Step that quickly. Right? That's right.
So, and then do you want to deal with all of those regulations in the EU, because they are a mother effort? So
yes, that's right.
That's another, and I don't want to say like Take-Two or EA are just like out of the question, because we live in the Matrix now after this Activision deal. But if they are going to play in that market, I say Sega, because that's the relationship that they have. They have actual DNA, and them coming in and understanding the culture of a company. The one company that I would say that they would have the most history and inner workings with, and is already using their technology to do things, so that they're already embedded with them now and learning it, is Sega. Right? You buy Capcom, you are going to get amazing IP, and a lot more of Capcom's IP is more relevant than the Sega IPs that we want them to bring back. Right? So Capcom, nobody's going to cry about that, but I don't know if Microsoft is really going to go in and just say, hey, we've got Capcom now, and that they were going to feel like that works for them. They understand how Capcom does things. I don't know. And then, there is this idea of Namco, right? And I'm not talking about Bandai Namco.
Just straight up Namco. Yes.
Right. What if they could convince, because listen, Bandai Namco got rid of their mobile arm, right? Who's to say they want to stay in the video game business? Maybe they just pick up Namco, get their IPs, and let Bandai license out the games to them for their anime IP, and that's just your
licensing stuff. That's always tends to be the sticking.
No. They don't have to, right? So here's the other thing: if they do buy a Japanese publisher, I think they create a new. Well, they have an Xbox Japan division, but you raise that to prominence and you put the head, you
of Tango,
whoever is the head of the publisher that they buy in Japan today, you make them the head of Xbox Japan and say, you run things in this division, you deal with Phil, and you just run the region which you are already running in this thing, and you just run autonomously. And one more thing, I think if they do buy a Japanese publisher, I think that those games stay multi-platform, at least for the foreseeable future. And the reason for that is a lot of people in Japan do not have an Xbox. It's not the same equation as it is for these Western developers. So, and I think the people in Japan that are working for those Japanese studios and publishers want to make games that people are going to play over there. So I think you keep it for the Game Pass angle and to build new things. But I think in the interim, you keep it multi-plat so that you can still release on Switch and obviously PC, because right, you can, and I don't think it hurts anything.
No, so I don't think it hurts anything
that's
either.
My take on it.
But they don't think in that vitriolic sense. Although I know that some in the Xbox community might be a little bit hurt by that whole situation. But who cares? You know, you have to keep the same energy, as the kids say. If you're not gonna be if you're gonna have a problem on the PlayStation side, then you're gonna have a problem on the Xbox side. But I do see that potentially being a solution there. I've heard other community members say that how about they rebrand themselves as Sega in that region, so that they can then have a name that is trusted by them. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but those are some options that could potentially, get folks in the door. Although anecdotally, you do see a lot of more Japanese folks on Twitter expounding their love for the Series S and all of that. So some traction is being made there. Obviously, if you compare it to their competitors, it's basically almost nothing in comparison. But it'll be interesting to see. I have an unpopular opinion on this matter. I think, like the movies of the 90s and the early 2000s, they're just not that into you. Move on, Microsoft. Eventually, you hit critical mass, and people will want to put their games on your service because there'll just be so many people there. Stop trying so hard to go and get them when all they do is spend your money badly, right? And then leave egg on your face, right? I'm looking at you there, Scalebound, among other things, right?
Even though they're coming back looking for work,
because now, as you see, Game Pass is making numbers, is making moves. People hear their name in the news pretty often. So now it's like, hey man, we want to work with you again. For a long time now, it's been, oh, we'll take your money and then we won't give you the respect you deserve. Even Sega does that today. There's conversations about there might be prior agreements keeping any personas off of Xbox. We don't know that for sure. There's background conversation and rumor and speculation, but still their premier franchise, right, that everybody keeps pointing to anytime anybody goes, hey, they're working with Sega, where's Persona? Still not coming. Even 360 games that are being re-released everywhere don't hit Xbox's new consoles. So eventually you got to take the hint. Like you're saying, Everborn, they are becoming a powerhouse of epic proportions on the Western side. Be content with that. Know that eventually those guys will want a piece of your puzzle because you will have so many people as long as you keep going down the path you are with Game Pass. Maybe you combine Activision Blizzard's numbers with WoW with Game Pass, and overnight you grow exponentially. These are all options that are available to you. Now, all of a sudden, if your subscription service has over 100 million subscribers, you think Japan won't be paying attention at that point? I think they will. What do you think?
Yeah, but even you also see Netflix, they have content for all the different places that they are strong. That's right. You'll see that content all over the world. So I do think if they want to grow as a global brand, they're going to have content that appeals to various it's all regions. About content diversity. So I remember, if they do buy a Japanese publisher, that publisher is going to actually get publishing deals for them that they couldn't get before. So remember, let's say they got Namco, right? They don't own the IP for maybe they do own they don't own Tales, but they were able to publish that, right?
Yeah.
right? I don't know if they own Scarlet Nexus, but they're able to get that as a publishing deal, right? So they can get into rooms and have conversations that maybe Microsoft can't have. So they can actually just secure content from other studios in Japan that you may not be able to get, and you'd be able to offer to them. So Rand, what do you think about this? Does Microsoft even want to play in the Eastern region, in Asia Pacific?
I mean, Phil has talked about it, right? Phil has talked about having a big Japanese presence, right? He's talked about casual content, and they've kind of gotten that. And he's talked about buying more studios, and they've done that. I mean, judging from what he's talked about, I would say, yeah, they probably looking, you know? Sometimes all you got to do is listen to Phil. Right?
Sega acquisition confirmed.
Nah, Sega. I don't think Sega's really a good get, honestly.
Ooh. Now, do you think? I'll ignore the slander. But do you? Here's the other thing. Since how it took them about a year or 10 months to close another deal after Activision, right? I mean, after Bethesda or Zen.
The Bethesda deal was 6 months.
Right. But I'm saying it took them 6 months to close that. But after it was closed, this Activision deal wasn't announced until 10 months later. Yep. Right?
Yeah, so essentially. Yeah.
So the question is, even though, let's say this deal does take us to March or June of 2023, this means they probably aren't going to buy another public. It's not going to be like, hey, we closed the deal today, tomorrow, let's...
Bro, never say never. We're like... Come on, man. You never know what's going to happen. You never, ever know.
So
Slow-mo's in here, like just ripping stuff apart. I'm sorry.
So again, so this is the thing. Because we saw Capcom just got a 5% stake from Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
For 500. They put it in Nexon. And by the way, let's be clear. Saudi Arabia has been putting money into these publishers and then cashing out when they get acquired. And they put that money into Capcom because they think there's going to be an acquisition. But doesn't Sony isn't there an ex-Sony executive that went to Capcom, or is it an ex-Capcom executive that went to Sony?
Yeah, I heard something about that. Yeah,
I mean, Capcom is pretty successful. The problem is right now everybody's prices are going to be inflated, right? So what's Capcom's what is their
$5 billion right now?
Okay, so you probably got to actually offer what?
You got to offer like 9.
Now you probably got to go 10.
Yep.
Everybody's prices are raised.
So here's the thing. Microsoft offered a 35% premium on top of the
45%.
What? 45%? I thought it was 35%.
It's 45%.
45%. So basically a 50% premium on top of what Activision Blizzard King was worth, right? If they're doing that, are we saying now we're in the world of offering 100% premiums? I don't think we're there.
I'm saying we're in the times of this is a seller's market. Prices are high because people know that these companies are buying. So you're at your most valuable, and Capcom's already pretty valuable and doing really well. So if Sony came a knocking, and you're Capcom and your shareholders
right now,
you know,
they're through the roof. All these different publishers we're talking about. Rand is absolutely right. They are through the roof right now, just by the idea that they might be next on the acquisition.
Oh, I'm sorry. Last time I checked, they were $5 billion, but everybody's expecting an acquisition.
So now they're
at 5.6 billion now. So maybe $10 billion is the number.
I'm just saying,
almost
like
5.7 billion.
They never, all these the developers and publishers have never been more valuable. So Sony comes to Capcom, and it's just like, you want us? Yeah, okay. $10 billion.
Wow.
Do you say no to that?
And if
do
you don't
move
like
on
it,
and go to Square?
The giant over there is right there. They got $10 billion. They'll give that to us easy. Sony, where's our money? That's the world we live in these days. Amazing, man. Absolutely amazing. I can't believe it. So we really think that Capcom is a viable option in the near term.
Well, I think the Saudi Arabia guy definitely thinks he's going to get a return on his investment.
That's
so
right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, yes, I do think I don't know who buys Ubisoft, but I do think, and I don't know if it's worth it.
You know what
for
the problem
Microsoft.
with Ubisoft is, Everborn?
What's that?
They have 20,000 employees.
Yeah, that's more employees than Activision and Xbox and Bethesda combined.
Yeah, so
right?
like the issue isn't buying the company. The issue is the employees and everything that you would then own that you have to pay for in perpetuity, right?
Yep.
So Ubisoft doesn't really use contractors like a lot of the industry does because they basically have all these studios. So they have 20,000 employees. That is, I don't even like. I think Microsoft only had like 10,000 maybe or 15,000, right? And Sony has. I don't think Sony has that many. So you're talking about buying Ubisoft and bringing in 20,000 people. I don't know. I mean, I could see why Sony might, and I could see why Sony might want Ubisoft. You get Assassin's Creed, you get Rainbow and some live service stuff.
Watch Dogs.
See, but but the problem with that is to Rand's point. It's one thing if yes they're making money, but it's one thing if they are a well-oiled machine where you just slot them into your organization and they're off to the races, right? The minute anybody talks about purchasing Ubisoft, all that dirty backroom talk becomes front page news. Are you going to clean them up? Is Yves Guillemot going to get fired? Just like they did, not as badly as Activision Blizzard King, because that just spilled everywhere with lawsuits and all of that. But Ubi is not that far behind. There have been people calling for Yves Guillemot's head for Lord knows how long now, right? And he's always downplaying it. And of course, he is not just a CEO figurehead. He's owner of the company. It's a family business, if you will. So getting him to go is going to be a hard sell. So the question remains, even if you're willing to take that huge 20K overhead on top of it, you're going to have to go in there and clean up some of this mess, because it will be everywhere. It'll be all over your news. You will inherit the press that they get. Are you ready to do that, right? You, Everborn, have already tried to make clear on this show on multiple occasions that it's not necessarily an open and shut case. It's not necessarily a slam dunk that Phil's organization is going to be able to turn around Activision Blizzard King that easily, even though they have limitless resources, presumably, right? You think PlayStation can do that with Ubisoft? That's a tough order, man. I don't see that working. If Microsoft is questionable in their pursuits here, I think the same and more can be said of PlayStation, because they do need their return on investment immediately. Because if they did this purchase, they'd be almost cleaning out their coffers and giving shares, including cash. They couldn't do an all cash deal like that because they don't have that much grip, right? And they'd want to return an investment immediately. And you might now want to keep the organization that Ubisoft has in place currently when it comes in house. You disagree?
Is that question for me or Rand?
Any of you. I would say to you, because I know you were talking about Ubi.
So, I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know that. I think they have not been purchased already, because everyone who has looked at it is like, you can't do that deal without massive layoffs, and
you start of the culture,
right? You start laying off people in the EU, and when that EU regulatory body gets a hold of you, boy, they don't let the claws go. Oh, yeah. They'll have them putting a browser ballot in games.
Microsoft has tails to tell. Yes, that's right.
So, so I don't know. I don't know who wants to take on that level of stress. I was just saying, in terms of content output and IPs that they own, it would be a great fit, but I don't know that it makes financial sense. And what other Western publishers are left, unless they're really gonna poke the monopoly bear and say they're gonna go after Take-Two, and Take-Two by that time would be Take-Two and Zynga. I don't know that that's a thing that they need to do or want to do right now. And then EA is another behemoth that if they get that, then people will really start talking about monopoly. So I feel like the safest way to move forward is someone in that region that you're also trying to capture.
Plus, EA's already said they're not really interested in being acquired. They're interested in acquiring.
Until the price is right, but yes.
What's that famous wrestler? Everybody has a price. Come on, give me the name.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, what's EA's market cap right now? 35 billion or something?
No, I think they got to be like 39. I think.
Yeah. Let me see.
I mean, they're up there too. I mean, it's not like they'd be an easy, purchase.
Are you talking about Ted DiBiase?
Ted DiBiase,
the $1 million man.
The $1 million man, indeed.
The man with the million.
39.95 billion today. The market cap of EA, yes. Which means you're not buying them until you give them at least what, 60, 55?
Yeah.
Yeah, they almost probably would cost us almost as much as Activision.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing I want to note before we cap this topic off. We did talk about individual studios, and we talked about maybe Crystal Dynamics, which if I had to bet money, I'd say maybe that deal's done already, right? Maybe all of that talk with Square throwing them under the bus and the words that they had about that atrocious Spider-Man DLC, about focusing their efforts on something that everyone can play, which was clearly a shot at some of the marketing decisions made, and then them, instead of greenlighting one of their own projects, sending them off to go and work with Microsoft, who at a studio at Microsoft who's run by their former boss over there at Crystal Dynamics, Daryl Gallagher. I'd say maybe those kind of deals are done and you don't really have to announce them until right now, because it's not like a huge deal.
And besides, while regulatory bodies are sniffing around, that's not when to announce something else that you bought.
I don't know. I think if Xbox had purchased Crystal Dynamics, they would be required to.
Isn't it a component rather than the whole company?
Yeah, but I mean, then wouldn't Square have to reveal that they've sold as well? Because they were talking about two public companies.
True.
I don't think you'd be able to sit on that for long.
So, because here's the thing, what my thinking behind that is, when they announced all the studios they purchased in 2018, they didn't purchase those the day before, right? They purchased them over time.
Well, but those were also not necessarily publicly traded company studios, were they?
Yeah, they were all private.
They were private studios, companies. Valve, for instance. If they buy Valve, you don't have to know. They don't have to tell you until they choose.
No, you do have to, because it's more than $100 million. So you have to go through the regulatory approvals and all those things. But smaller
non-publicly traded companies,
smaller studios, there's a certain threshold with which you don't really have to announce it. But again, I'm with you, Rand. I don't even think they announce any individual purchases. I mean, until this deal is closed, and then you can announce some of those things. So if there's something in the works with IOI or Avalanche or maybe Crystal Dynamics, if we're saying that's not done yet, I don't think if it's not signed right now.
See, this
it's
is
on
why,
hold till this deal is
I'm
done.
Saying, while the giant is preoccupied, all these others can kind of snap up some things, because to their point.
But Kesante,
yes, sir.
That could also be detrimental, because the giant is preoccupied. Who is the other company bidding against?
Yeah.
That could be one of the reasons Bungie was able to get what they wanted, because Microsoft was also talking out there, and Bungie's being like, Jim, I just got off the phone with Phil. You know what I'm saying? But if everybody knows Microsoft's staying put, who's driving up the price?
Well, there are others. 10 cents out there sniffing around who's got the money.
Some companies might wait until Microsoft's ready to buy again, so they could have somebody be like, we got Microsoft.
See, don't say that. Don't say that, because now you're gonna give everyone some hope. Don't say that.
I'm just saying.
No, you should have never told me that.
This man now has hope. Damn it! All right.
You just provided me a talking point, sir. They're waiting until Microsoft is free so they can cause a bidding war between Sony and Microsoft.
That was the thing with Warner Brothers, right? Was that we heard it was Take-Two, we heard it was EA, and we heard it was some whatever. I forget the third one. But then suddenly 2 weeks later, it was like Microsoft is interested. And the reason I think they said it was leaked by WB themselves, because they wanted people to know that Microsoft was interested to raise up the price. Because now people are looking like, Microsoft's involved.
Yeah.
So you never know. Some of these companies
that probably helped Bungie as well. Hey, Microsoft is sniffing around. Bungie, they get the grip they want and their independence, because otherwise Microsoft might come in there and scoop them up.
So one thing that I didn't talk about with the Bungie thing, Rand, I want to know what you think about this. Has the deal that Bungie was able to secure, has that kind of poisoned the well for other publishers they may want to purchase? Because if you go to Capcom and you say, hold on a minute, I am mother effing Capcom, and you gave Bungie full autonomy and they still own all their own stuff. Am I chop liver com? Right?
I mean, people have said to me, is like, how does Sony Santa Monica and Insomniac feel right now? Right? Yes. Like Bungie comes in and they get 3.6 bills with 1.3 earmarked for employee retention. Insomniac didn't get that. Insomniac doesn't have independence. Like Bungie's like the special, pampered.
And Bungie is going to be walking around into Insomniac and Naughty Dog and telling them what to do with netcode. Like, hey, this is how you're going to make this thing. Yep. Right? That's essentially what the deal is, for them to help the other studios make multiplayer games.
I don't think a condition of a deal with Capcom would stipulate independence.
Ted Price is right now at Insomniac just smacking himself going, man, what did we do?
Bungie, I think that was a sticking point for Bungie, because that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
I think Capcom would be like, we're cashing out, boys. We don't care about our whatever, because we're gone. Give us our money.
Yeah, that is a different way of looking at it.
Now here's the other thing, right? Let's say Sony does have $10 billion in the bank that they specifically have earmarked to use for a publisher purchase, right? Of the three, right, we've got Sega, we've got Capcom, we've got Square Enix. Forget about Konami, because you're just buying IPs at that point, and that's like a joke, right? I think we all agree that they don't want to take on what it would be involved in buying Ubisoft. So of those three big publishers, right? If they buy Capcom or if they buy Sega, does that mean they're comfortable with leaving Capcom on the table for Microsoft to pick up later? If they buy Capcom, are they comfortable with leaving Square on the table for Microsoft to pick up later?
That must be some of the calculation they make when they choose their next studio, right? Because they know when that giant is not so busy, they will come and grab whatever we don't grab. So what do we grab?
Wait, hold on. So hold on. Slow-Mo says 7 years.
I say earlier.
I give it 3. As soon as that 1.2 billion is vested and they get that payout, that is enough to start a new studio, buddy. That's exactly what you're gonna see. That.
No, but the point you make is interesting, because, as you know, right, all these purchases happening, and we've already established the fact that they don't want any regulatory eyebrow raising, right? So they're going to be standing firm and keeping cool until that ink is dry on that purchase. So I would think that calculus comes into play when PlayStation's planning their next move, right?
But hold on, guys. Yeah. Hold on. If Sony buys one of these publishers, isn't that a monopoly? They're the market leader, and
they are the market leader already, right?
25 billion.
Is Joe Blow the comedian gonna make a 3-minute TikTok
video on that? That's right.
or is he gonna be like, no, this is great for Sony and great for gamers and developers. That's the other thing. It's like Microsoft was like, I think before all this, like the fifth, right? Like regarding revenue, because it was like Tencent and Sony were right there, and then Microsoft was at like 16, a little bit above Nintendo, and now they're like third, but like Sony's still like number 1 or number 2 after Tencent. But like if they were to buy a publisher, wouldn't that draw more eyes on them? They would have more of the market.
Yeah, I would think so.
Well, here this is another thing, right? Like even they still have to get this cleared, right? They signed a definitive agreement, but they don't own Bungie yet. Does Sony want to rock the boat right now until the Bungie deal is closed? And I know it won't take as long because it's not as big of a deal as the Microsoft thing.
With the fact that they're talking single digit billions, whereas Microsoft over here is
fantastic. But if you add a Capcom or a Square Enix or a Sega to that, aren't you saying like, hold on, you're buying this one one of the biggest console FPS games publishers, and now you're buying this $10 billion when you're already at the top of the market?
That would only be a talking point if the regulatory bodies understand the gaming market like that, and they're not just money men. Because if they're just money men, all they see is $7 billion here, $3 billion there, compared to $71 billion. You know what I'm saying? Money men won't look beyond the money. Whereas if you're a person well vested into the gaming industry and know what it means to own Capcom, what it means to own Sega, then you might go, hey, PlayStation, what are you doing there? You're buying an iconic franchise that has existed forever. Street Fighter belongs on every platform. I doubt your regulatory body will be that well vested in understanding the nuances of the gaming environment like that. You know what I mean? That's my worry, that the money will overshadow everything.
Oh, the money.
And it's a lot of money.
Does. One thing I do want to say, I am with Big Bad Mo in the chat. I have a feeling that the Activision deal will be done by December.
As everybody's bloviating left and right.
I think it'll be done in calendar year 2022.
Interesting. So that they can be
11 and a half
fresh
months.
as a daisy for 2023 to start dropping.
No, not that. I'm just saying that's when I think they'll get all their go-aheads from the FTC and all that.
Yeah. We shall see.
Unless there's like major pushback, meaning they have to do that second look like Hogue was talking about. And they say they want to make concessions, and then Microsoft fights against that and then wins it, whatever.
Nadella has already
That's
come
a different story.
He doesn't foresee any concessions on that.
But of course, he's supposed to say that. Yes. If Lena Khan says that, then we're fine. Satya can say whatever the hell he wants.
Indeed.
But I do feel like this deal is going to be done a lot sooner than June. That's just my intuition.
Yeah, you've said that before. It'll be interesting to see where this rounds out. But you know what? We will leave it there for this week. We have had an amazing conversation with the legendary Rand Al Thor 19. Actually, after this, I could just hang it up. I've had Rand on the show. I'm good now, man. This is great. I really appreciate you being here, good sir. For the rare individuals who do not know who you are and what you mean to these gaming communities, please tell us where we can find you this week. What you'll be up to. Any new videos popping up that we should be interested in?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It was a blast talking to both of you. I don't know. I do my videos like last minute. I kind of just like
inspiration.
Sit down and be like, yeah, do I want to make something? So right now, no, I don't. I do have a couple videos that I'm marinating an idea that maybe I'll make next week. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, if you want to, subscribe to the channel, it's youtube.com/RandalThor19. I appreciate you. If you want to watch the videos or check out the podcast we do every Friday with Jez Corden. But this was a lot of fun. It's always nice to be able to slander Everborn,
Man,
yeah.
It's becoming a great pastime for all. This is fantastic. And for those who need more details, I will of course be adding Rand's information, both the Twitter and the YouTube channel, into our show notes. But come on now, if you're following us, you're probably subscribed to Rand Al Thor 19. If you're not,
Rand Al Goat.
Rand Al Goat, indeed.
Marquise Goodwin says
for sure. But yes, and how about you, Mr. Everborn Saga? I it's always wonderful doing this stuff with you. Always introspective, always intelligent, well thought out conversation. What are you doing this week? When are we going to be on the reel once again?
I'm working on that. I apologize.
I'm
good
following
sir. I'm just
the
trying
great
to get
tradition
these
that you have
comic
set,
books.
which is public shaming. Go ahead, brother.
No, I know it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I see Xbox University in the chat. Guys, follow his new account. He'll post it in the chat or whatever that is. And Rand, maybe me, you, Kay, and Jess can get together and do another Xbox 4. I don't know. What do you think?
It'd be interesting.
We'll figure that out. That's awesome.
Right? So, but I am Everborn Saga everywhere. So that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Oculus. Sorry, not Oculus anymore. Meta. When are we going to talk about that?
I don't want to talk about that. I just want to move quickly along.
And also on YouTube, you can check out Everborn Saga on YouTube, where you can catch up on the Real, where it's a show like this, but we talk about TV and movies and Wheel of Time books that I haven't read yet. But we would like to get Rand on that show so we can talk about some fantasy novels and how terrible the Wheel of Time TV show was.
You know, anytime.
It only took him a whole season to come around that it was bad. I told you from episode 1.
Please.
There he goes. He had to get a shot in real quick before.
Had to.
Listen, don't
you
worry. You better be concerned about that. I don't read everything in the Stormlight Archive before you finish the last book.
You might read a whole 1,000-page books in 2 days. Jesus Christ. But don't worry. Don't feel bad about Wheel of Time, right? Like, I stand for Sega. You stand for Wheel of Time. And Slow-Mo stands for Dune. These things happen.
And I'm
amazing,
eating my popcorn, enjoying the show.
But the difference is Dune is amazing and so is Wheel of Time. Sega is
God.
Whatever.
Here we go.
If Sega left the industry tomorrow, would anybody even care?
Ooh.
I would. Gosh darn it, because kids are watching. I almost let out a curse word.
Man.
But listen, On the Real is coming back. You guys tell me, right? I want to know what the community thinks. What if we did On the Real on Saturdays instead of Thursday nights? And that way we could kind of jump from the gaming talk right into the TV and movie talk.
You know what I suggest? Put a Twitter poll out. See what the folks say. Because you got a good amount of
Yes, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And what I'm aiming, I know I wanted to bring it back in February, but I didn't think there's enough good content to talk about because the Boba Fett show is trash.
Stop it.
And I don't want to bring back On the Real just to talk about Book of Boba Fett. And the show is so trash that they had to pivot it to The Mandalorian.
See, have you even seen it?
He had like 5 minutes screen time. Don't worry about that.
See, again,
now, the thing
he hasn't even seen it. He's talking about it. Look at you.
I'm up to episode 4. I didn't get to episode 5 yet, and I don't like anything with The Mandalorian. So anyway, I'm thinking we bring back On the Real with a bang for the Batman. We'll bring it back with a Batman.
Well, all right. Well, you know what?
That's my thought. You guys tell me what you think.
Put out a Twitter poll.
If you want to see it sooner, let me know. We'll come back sooner. But I'm thinking that's where we come back because that's where we can have a meaty conversation. But also, most importantly, I'm going to put out a Twitter poll. But I want you guys to go to everbornsaga.com where you can see the books that we're putting together. The Redlands is going to be released this month. We just finished the lettering. I'm putting together the cover and the description and getting it to the printer as we speak. So everybody that supported the campaign, you should be receiving your books hopefully by the end of this month, which is a good thing. We're putting out the Redlands, which all the people in there look like me, and it's Black History Month. I didn't plan it that way, but serendipitously, that's how things are going down. So, and we are working on our new book, The Remnant, which is coming out with its own fantasy novella, which I'm going to give to Rand to read because apparently he'll read it in like 2 hours. And then he can tell me if he likes it or not.
Indeed. So,
and that is it. That's all I got.
Thank you guys so much for being here. We hit astronomical numbers for our small little show. Thank you, Rand, for lending your star power, good sir. Yes, we appreciate everybody who was in here. Appreciate the chat was lively, continues to be lively. See a bunch of new faces as well as some returning ones. We appreciate you. For those who happen to be listening on audio, I see you in there. I'm getting the numbers. They're rising every day. I appreciate you guys so much. If you happen to leave a review, I will read that on the show. I appreciate more folks choosing to try to listen to this in the car while they're driving with the kids. We try to keep the non PG-13 bombs to a minimum, just for y'all. And I
know the kids can't listen to Destin's news video. He was upset.
Well, rightfully so when people out there fear-mongering for no reason. But that's
lying.
Neither here nor there. If you want more of the Blue Talk, you'll get some of that when On the Real returns because we let it all hang out at that place. Pause. But until next week, I appreciate you, Rand, for being here, and Mr. Everborn Saga for continuing to be on this mission with me. Until next week, hope you have a great weekend. Later, guys.